Powered by NairaBet. This is Football Live with Chris Baldwin.
Yes, indeed, and a very good afternoon to you once again. This is Football Live, back with you on Brila FM on this Sunday afternoon with me, Chris Baldwin, guiding you through all of today's Premier League and top European League football action for the next 4.5 hours. It's game week 10 in the Premier League. And, of course, we have another action-packed afternoon for you on today's edition with all the best coverage. Five Premier League matches on offer this afternoon, where, of course, the standout fixture undoubtedly is at Old Trafford for the 191st Manchester derby as United face City. And we'll be building up to all the action with previews, team news and interviews ahead of kickoff at 4:30 p.m. Meanwhile, the action is just about getting underway at the London Stadium, where West Ham are playing Everton. They will be kicking off very, very shortly there. In fact, they're about 5 or 6 seconds into the match now. So West Ham against Everton, that's the early kickoff. Elsewhere today, Liverpool look to extend their 16-match unbeaten Premier League run as they host Nottingham Forest at Anfield. Aston Villa, who certainly haven't been shy in front of goal this season, they entertain struggling Luton Town and will be across all the action taking place at the Amex as well, as Brighton look to build on their European success in midweek when they face Fulham. All three of those Premier League encounters kicking off at 3 p.m. and we'll be going around the grounds very, very shortly as we build up to each and every one of those games. Further details of today's other top European League coverage as well coming up very, very shortly. But right now, let's head straight to the London Stadium for the very latest for the clash between West Ham and Everton. As we say, a very good afternoon to Jack Hesson.
Yeah, very good afternoon to you, Chris. And it was a sombre mood around the London Stadium at the start of the game as both sides paid respect to the late England and Manchester United player Bobby Charlton, along with former Everton chairman Bill Kenwright, who passed last week. West Ham are coming off the back of back-to-back defeats following their 4-1 hammering away to Aston Villa last weekend and their midweek defeat in the Europa League to Olympiacos. They make 0 changes from that 4-1 defeat. Ward-Prowse starts in the midfield. Antonio leads the line. For Everton, they lost the Merseyside derby by 2-0 at Anfield last weekend. They make 1 change. Nathan Patterson replacing suspended Ashley Young. Of course, Dominic Calvert-Lewin leads the line for the Toffees. Should be a good game this afternoon. It is in the early stages, both teams just trying to assert some kind of early dominance into the game. 1 minute played, it's still West Ham 0, Everton 0.
So early stages then at the London Stadium. You won't miss a thing here on Football Live. Jack Hesson, our reporter here across that game for you throughout the course of the afternoon. And as Jack mentioned there, of course, a sad week for Evertonians as well, with the passing of Bill Kenwright. Going to hear now from the Toffees head coach Sean Dyche with his thoughts on the legacy left by the Everton chairman, who, as I say, passed away a few days ago.
Sort of rallied as a group. You know, obviously some had a bigger connection with the chairman than others due to their time here, particularly Seamus. Myself in a different way, obviously, being quite close to him over a period that was difficult for him and his family as well with illness. So yeah, it's a big loss, that's for sure. No, he's always, he's incredibly supportive. I was reading some of Moyes' comments, saying as a young manager how supportive he was. He was supportive to me, sort of older manager, if you like, a bit more rounded in it. And he was nothing but supportive, even through some hard times. He's been someone to pick up the phone to, always got time for you, and always wanted to find out what was going on, really, and get a touch base of what the feel in the camp was, the players, the mood, often telling me all of his wisdom about Everton Football Club and what we should be doing.
That's the Everton boss, Sean Dyche, with his thoughts there of the late Bill Kenwright, the former Everton chairman, who passed away a few days ago. Of course, he was instrumental in appointing David Moyes as manager at the club, some 21 years ago now. He originally entered the Everton board way back in 1989. West Ham against Everton, they're into the 4th minute. It's still goalless at the moment. As always, of course, we'll keep you up to date with all the latest news and goals as they go in throughout the top European leagues right here on Football Live. Also to come, we'll be reviewing this week's action that took place in the Saudi Pro League with our resident expert, John Kane. and betting expert Ayo Alabi from NairaBet will be on the line at around about 2:30 for all of the betting opportunities on offer for the big Manchester derby, United against City, kicking off at 4:30 this afternoon. A few other latest scores to give you from some of the early kickoffs from around Europe. First of all, in the Dutch Eredivisie, they are approaching full-time rather. Twente are leading Feyenoord by 2-0. Feyenoord, of course, the defending champions, but Twente 2 to the good in that match at the moment. Two sides who went to that game, fourth playing third. I can tell you that Feyenoord have scored a late goal there, so we could be on for a grandstand finish. It's now Twente 2, Feyenoord 1, with about 3 minutes or so of normal time remaining in that game in the Dutch Eredivisie. Into Italian Serie A, and Cagliari 2, Frosinone 3 is the latest score there, with 75 minutes played, a 5-goal thriller in that game. Some terrific action coming up in Italian Serie A later on today, kicking off at 6 o'clock. Inter against AS Roma. Romelu Lukaku returning, of course, to his former club. And then tonight, probably the match of the weekend in the top flight of Italian football, as Napoli take on Milan at the Diego Armando Maradona Stadium. That kicks off at 8:45 this evening in Serie A. Right, let's go straight back to matters that are taking place today. However, of course, plenty of action, as I mentioned, in the Premier League. And right now, time to build up to the 3 Premier League matches that are kicking off at 3 p.m. Our first stop is going to be to Anfield, where Liverpool, unbeaten, of course, on that 16-match unbeaten run, hosting Nottingham Forest. Covering that match for us here on Football Live is our reporter Richard Bond. And Richard, given the form of both teams, you'd say this should be a straightforward mission for Jurgen Klopp's side this afternoon.
Well, statistics say that on paper, don't they? Liverpool in the past have been very strong against Nottingham Forest. It's been since 1969 since Nottingham Forest have managed to win at Anfield. As the visitors, they've got such an injury crisis. It's hard to see how they've managed to pepper together a team today. You know, I think it's about 10 players out. Liverpool so strong at home, though. You know, they've I think it's last season really 13 Premier League games or 16 Premier League match unbeaten home record at the moment. So it's going to be very hard for Steve Cooper's side to really get something from this match.
It certainly will be, won't it, Richard? And as you say, Liverpool with a terrific run at the moment, especially at home as well. Just reflecting on that Europa League result against Toulouse on Thursday night, a convincing 5-1 win for them at Anfield in the end, maintaining their 100% start to the competition. Plenty of changes made, of course, for that game. So, as you would expect, and as we know, plenty of strength in depth around this Liverpool squad.
Oh, exactly. I think you just hit the nail on the head there. Strength and depth is what Liverpool have got this year. This has come from, well, I think it's £130 million worth of talent being brought in over the summer. Jurgen Klopp clearly has identified the areas he wants to strengthen, particularly in midfield, where we saw Endo and Gravenbach both on the score sheet this week as well. And I think really they were quite a way off challenging for the title last year, and that was unlike a Klopp side over recent times. And this year they look much more equipped to really silently come in with the title challenge. You know, we've seen Arsenal, Tottenham, and Manchester City up there, but don't be surprised to see Liverpool also posing that threat come the end of the season. It's going to be a great race this year, I feel.
Yeah, certainly a very different proposition this season, as you rightly point out there, Richard. Just touching on Nottingham Forest, they're going to be very, very disappointed, aren't they, with that result last weekend at home to Luton Town, 2-0 up. With Steve Cooper saying after the result that the draw felt more like a loss. It's not the sort of game they should be throwing away. That will be a huge disappointment for them.
Well, unfortunately, really, draws don't win games, and that's what Nottingham Forest are doing at the moment. There's 4 at the last 5 they've drawn. It's not good enough really at this level in the Premier League. You've got to, when you go 2-0 up, especially against a team which you expect are going to be at the bottom of sort of rankings this season in Luton, just come up scrapping for points, go 2-0 up and then lose that in the last 10 minutes is really criminal at this level. It's hard to say because there's always a lot of changes at Nottingham Forest. We found in the last couple of seasons they made so many changes when they came up, and again this year you look at the players they've been playing, there's another half a dozen or so differences in a team. Maybe he just hasn't really found that 11 that he believes in, and there's obvious quality there. We've seen Awani's been brilliant, since they brought him in. Seems to be the settled striker, but he's been injured. Alanga's come in and offers that little bit of additional quality on the flank, really, to create. But I'm not sure about Forest. It could be a case they get sucked in as well if they don't get wins sooner rather than later.
Thanks very much, Rich. That's Rich Bond covering Liverpool against Nottingham Forest at Anfield this afternoon here for us on Football Live. Right now, we're going to hear from the Reds boss, Liverpool boss, that is Jurgen Klopp, on Nottingham Forest, and his thoughts as well on Divock Origi, the former Liverpool striker, who of course plies his trade now at the City Ground.
He was just doing a really good job. So changed again a lot. A lot of players are in. I really hope, not for the game, but for the occasion, that Divock Origi will be in the squad. I hope he's fit. Stuff like this, just that the people can give him a little hello. He would deserve that, definitely. Besides that, I don't wish him a good game, that's clear, but at least the occasion. Besides that, a lot of options, a lot of different opportunities for him to pick from. It's a really big squad, but for sure a challenge to manage properly. But he's doing it without any noise. I never hear anything from anybody there, so it's obviously working really well. And I think it's clear for Nottingham, they want to stay in the league and then progress from there. And that's what they are doing in the moment. And in a super tricky Premier League, they pick their points. And we know what we have to expect.
A thorough analysis there from Jurgen Klopp ahead of the clash with Nottingham Forest this afternoon. I can confirm that Divock Origi will not feature in the squad this afternoon. Taiwo Awoniyi does make the bench following his recent injury, but we'll be getting all of the team news from Rich Bond a little bit later on. Liverpool against Nottingham Forest here on Football Live. Right, Aston Villa, well, they continue their impressive start to the season, fresh from their demolition job of AZ Alkmaar in the Europa Conference League in midweek. They entertain Luton Town. Duka Dobma is across that match for us this afternoon. And Duka, a daunting prospect, shall we say, for the Hatters, given Villa's goal-scoring record this season, which has been absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, Aston Villa's home form as well this season is also something to be admired by. Well, even going back into last season, they've won their last 11 home games. Luton coming into this must be fearful. And they have made a fair few changes, in fact, Luton. Aston Villa have kept the same shape, kept the same team, but Luton have been the side that have made changes. They've gone sort of reverted back to a 5-back. They played sort of a back 4 against Nottingham Forest in their last game, but they've gone to a 5-back this game where Mpanzu Chong and Burke drop out and Barkley, Kabore and Gabe Osho come in. So it's clear to see that Rob Edwards, the Luton manager, has adjusted his team sort of maybe cope with Aston Villa's incredible attack at the minute. But at the minute, even then, it's still wedging towards an Aston Villa thumping today again.
Thanks very much, Duka. That's Duka Dobma, who's covering Aston Villa against Luton Town for us on Football Live this afternoon, kicking off at 3 o'clock. There is one match, of course, already underway in the Premier League, the early kickoff at the London Stadium. Let's get the latest news there now from our reporter, Jack Hesson.
Yeah, we're 12 minutes in and West Ham are dominating the early stages of the game. They've had the first real half chance of the game. Lucas Paqueta just on the edge of the area played a lovely chip pass over the top to try and get it to Jared Bowen, and he's just an inch away from getting his foot on the end of it. If he did, he would have had a very clear chance on goal. Pickford, to his credit, comes out, makes it difficult for him, manages to get the ball away. But as I say, West Ham dominating the early stages. They're trying to target down that left hand side where it seems there's a real weakness for Everton at the moment. 12 minutes played, however, it is still West Ham 0, Everton 0.
So still goalless then at the London Stadium. Let's continue to go around the grounds ahead of the 3 o'clock kickoffs. We head now to the Amex, where Brighton, of course, secured that memorable European victory under the lights on Thursday night against Ajax. Fulham are the visitors this afternoon as we cross over to Kane Wears for all the latest news. Good afternoon, Kane.
Good afternoon, Chris. Yeah, Brighton are searching for the first ever Premier League win over Fulham as the host of West Londoners this afternoon at the Amex. The Seagulls have failed to beat their opponents in their previous 6 top-flight meetings, and last season was swept away with a 2-1 defeat at Craven Cottage and 1-0 in the reverse fixture in February. But Roberto De Zerbi's team are looking to put right a 3-game winless run after the draw with Liverpool, a 6-1 hammering at Aston Villa and a 2-1 loss at Man City. The Cottagers again are the same, who are trying to look for another win after being beaten 2-0 by Tottenham on Monday after the international break. But Fulham retain full faith in Marco Silva and handed the Portuguese coach a new contract this week, and he'd no doubt love to repay that move more than anything else by getting a win down on the south coast this afternoon. The interesting thing's going to be, though, how many changes will Brighton make this afternoon after their win in the Europa League against Ajax midweek. But hopefully goals galore in this game.
Yeah, Kane, it's an interesting stat. I know you've alluded to it already. The fact, obviously, Brighton did so well last season, but as you mentioned, they have failed to beat Fulham in 6 Premier League meetings, drawn 3, lost 3. That's quite astonishing.
Yeah, it's crazy to think as well, especially on how good Brighton were last season. And I think especially De Zerbi will be hoping that he can change that today. But Brighton have been so uppy-downy this season. I think after the first few games, they were near the top of the league. And I think it's just at times they're either going that gung-ho that they're either going to win by 4 or 5 or they're going to lose by 4 or 5. So it'll be interesting how they get set up for today's game, especially having a European fixture midweek.
Thanks very much, Kane. And we'll be getting all the team news just before kick-off from Kane Wears on that match. Brighton against Fulham. Yeah, incidentally, last season, Fulham doing the double over Brighton, winning by a single goal at the Amex back in February. And prior to that, a 2-1 victory at Craven Cottage back in August. Brighton against Fulham kicking off at 3 p.m. You're listening to Football Live. It's still West Ham 0, Everton 0 at the London Stadium right now. Coming up next, we're going to get all of the latest news from events that have happened in the Saudi Pro League over the last few days. This is Football Live.
The Saudi Pro League on Football Live.
Yes, the Saudi Pro League is in round 11, which is quite a few of the games that happened over the last couple of days or so. We'll start with Al Nassr. They managed to beat Al Fayha away from home by 3-1. Cristiano Ronaldo was not on the scoring sheet. However, he did make he assisted the first goal for Talisca, who scored twice in that game, and Octavia scored the third. All the goals were in the second half, so it was a good win for Al Nassr. Al Ittihad, despite a goal from Karim Benzema in the 26th minute, the game ended 2-2 against Al Hazm, which was a very interesting game to say the least. The big game of the round was between Al Hilal and Al Ahli. Al Hilal won by 3-1. It was a couple of goal, in fact, from Mitrovic in the first half, also from Milinkovic-Savic, the ex-Lazio player, and it was an own goal by Ibanez for the third for Al Hilal. For Al Ahli, of course, that team is full of players as well, Mahrez and so, but Mahrez only managed an assist for Al Ansab Maximum, if you remember him, the exciting ex-player for Newcastle, and the game finished Al Hilal winning the game by 3-1. The other notable games, of course, Al Ittifaq, who were leading at some stage, they won away to Al Wahda by 3-2 away from home. Al Shabab, they've lost to Abha by 2-1, which wasn't a good result. Al Ta'awan, who were leading last weekend, and they've led for quite a few times as well, they drew away from home to Al Khalij by 1 goal each. In fact, the the table, well, it stands Al Hilal on 29 points, are leading the way. Al Nasser, who actually had a really bad start, didn't they, to the Saudi Pro League. Now they're second, but they're 4 points behind Al Hilal with 25 points. Al Ta'awan, who were leading until about a week or so ago, they're on 24 points. And Al Ahli, they're on 22, and Al Ittihad, they're on 21 points. It's been quite an interesting few games this weekend, Chris, but Al Hilal, I think they do belong where they do normally, and that is top of the league.
I was just going to say, John, it's 7 goals now for Alexander Mitrovic in all competitions for Al Hilal. I think he scored one, didn't he, in that 3-1 win against Al Ahly on Friday. And he missed a penalty as well in the first half too, but he has adapted to life very well in the top flight of Saudi football.
He has indeed, didn't he? No one doubted his ability, didn't he? I mean, he done it in the in Championship with Fulham, then he done it in the Premier League with Fulham, then he gone to, it sort of forced his way, didn't he, really, to go to Saudi Arabia. And I tell you what, it was actually worthwhile for Al Hilal because he's been scoring goals for fun in that league at the moment.
Absolutely is. Thanks very much to John Kane, our resident expert on all matters Saudi Pro League. You're listening to Football Live here on Brila FM. So much to come for you between now and 6:30 p.m. on this Sunday afternoon. It's 20 minutes past 2. 3 matches, of course, kicking off at 3 o'clock in the Premier League. Today, we've been around the grounds just a few moments ago. Aston Villa at home to Luton, Brighton taking on Fulham, Liverpool against Nottingham Forest, and, of course, kicking off at 4:30. It's the big one this weekend, the 191st Manchester derby as United face City. A match, of course, slightly overshadowed by the sad passing of Bobby Charlton just a week or so ago. We will be getting plenty of build-up to that game and all the team news as well. And a reminder that Ayo Alabi from Nairabet will be joining us in just over an hour's time as we look at all the betting opportunities available for that huge encounter taking place at Old Trafford this afternoon. Let's just check back in now at the London Stadium. West Ham against Everton. Are we edging any closer to a goal in that game? Jack Hesson.
Yeah, 20 minutes in, it's still West Ham 0, Everton 0, and it has been a relatively quiet game, as I mentioned earlier. West Ham starting the strongest, but Everton really getting a first glimpse of chances further up the park. There was a good chance there. Nathan Patterson with a great ball into the box towards Dwight McNeil, but he couldn't get his footing right in the box, and it was cleared away comfortably by West Ham. So the game is evening up a bit from that strong early start for West Ham. It's a difficult time for Everton to try and get a win. They've won just 4 of the last 40 Premier League away games September 2021, but they're definitely still in this game at the moment. 20 minutes played, it's still West Ham 0, Everton 0.
Should West Ham supporters be a little bit concerned at the moment, Jack, because we're just in a little blip, haven't we? Without a win in their last 3 matches, a real trouncing defeat at Aston Villa last weekend by 4-1 as well. Anything they should be concerned about?
I think this has happened quite a lot with West Ham over the past couple of seasons. You know, they've sort of been hot and cold with David Moyes. They obviously have a lot of respect for him as a manager for what he's done, especially last season winning the Conference League. But they are a team, and David Moyes is a manager who is able to, when they're in difficult spells, manage to get something out of his sides. They're still 8th place in the table at the moment, but you're absolutely right in that if they don't win this game against a team further down the table, that could start to cause a concern for them.
Thanks very much, Jack. Jack Hesson there reporting on West Ham against Everton. We still await our first goal there at the London Stadium. Just looking at a couple of stats from that game. West Ham, of course, they've a pretty good record against Everton in recent seasons. They've won 4 of their last 6 Premier League matches against the Merseyside club, having lost the other 2 last season in the corresponding fixture. Last season, they won by 2-0 with a couple of goals from Jared Bowen, who, of course, has been in particularly good form as well, once again, for West Ham so far this season. In fact, he became only the 3rd player in Premier League history to score in each of his side's first 5 away matches at the start of the season, emulating that feat achieved by such gods of football, including Thierry Henry and Mo Salah as well a few seasons ago. But still currently goalless there between West Ham and Everton. Let's just have a look at some of the other latest scores from you from around Europe. In fact, in the Championship, there's a big game going on at the bottom of the Championship. Sheffield Wednesday against Rotherham. It is the South Yorkshire derby. Sheffield Wednesday are leading by a goal to nil in that game. Michael Smith has opened their account this afternoon. These are two sides, of course, that are really struggling at the foot of the championship table. Going into this match, Sheffield Wednesday propping up the championship table, having only without a win, in fact, this season. So they are still looking for their first win of the season. And at the moment, they are leading their South Yorkshire rivals, Rotherham, by a goal to nil. In the Scottish Premiership, Kilmarnock 1, Aberdeen 0 is the latest score there. Kyle Vassell with the only goal of the game so far there. Rangers in action later on today, kicking off at 4 p.m. as they entertain Hearts at Ibrox. Into the Dutch Eredivisie, I could tell you a result there. Twente have beaten defending champions Feyenoord by 2-1. Great result there for Twente. That means that they leapfrog Feyenoord into third spot in the Eredivisie. Big match, of course, taking place this afternoon in the top flight of Dutch football. PSV against Ajax. I say a big match. They are, of course, two giants, historically, two giants of Dutch football. But Ajax, where's it all gone wrong for them? Currently, one place off the foot of the table. And they face a PSV side who, of course, are looking to maintain a 100% record, having won all 9 of their opening matches in the Dutch Eredivisie this season. So that's PSV at home to Ajax. They kick off at 2:30 p.m. and a few other matches taking place. And we'll update you with all the latest scores in the Dutch Eredivisie a little bit later on here on Football Live. And, of course, we'll keep you up to date with all the other scores from around Europe. Betis 0, Osasuna 0 is the latest score in Spanish La Liga into the 25th minute of that game. Of course, we had the El Clasico yesterday, didn't we? Jude Bellingham on the score sheet again, scoring both goals for Real in that 2-1 win against Barcelona. And finally into Italian Serie A. What an absolutely cracking game we have. In the match between Cagliari and Frosinone. They are deep into stoppage time there, and it's now Cagliari 4, Frosinone 3. Cagliari taking the lead there in the 96th minute. In fact, they equalised in the 94th minute, having trailed 3-2 with a goal from Leonardo Pavoletti, and he has just put them in front. Cracking game there. Cagliari leading Frosinone by 4-3. And as I mentioned earlier, in fact, VAR just looking into that fourth goal for Cagliari as I speak. So we will update you with news on whether that goal is given. But VAR currently checking that fourth goal for Cagliari. And as I mentioned earlier, 2 big games taking place later on in Serie A. Inter at home to AS Roma and Napoli at home to Milan. Right, let's head back now to the London Stadium, because I think the hosts have come it's the visitors, I think, who have come pretty close to opening their account in that game. Put me right on that, Jack Hesson.
Well, you're right on both. Both sides have had really good opportunities to try and take the lead within the last couple of minutes. First one, a long ball to Lucas Paqueta. Paqueta absolutely rinses Patterson on that right-hand side, gets the ball, advances towards the box, drilled across to Jared Bowen, his chance just wide. Then almost a massive defensive error from Lucas Paqueta a couple of minutes after the ball in the middle of the park. He tries to play it back to Agerd, but complete lack of communication between the two. Pounced on by Harrison. It's in a 3v2 situation, but Harrison doesn't use any of the options in and around him, and instead results in a weak shot on goal. Just as you're coming to me now, we're taking a look. There is a potential check for a red card, or there was a scuffle between the players just a couple of minutes ago, so just trying to figure out exactly what's happened there. If you want to come back to me in a couple of minutes, I'll be able to try and get that to you. 27 minutes played, it's still West Ham 0, Everton 0.
Yeah, we'll come back to Jack Hesson very, very shortly, just to tie up that VAR check into a possible red card. In fact, I can tell you that it's not a red card. It will be just a yellow. We'll be back with Jack very, very shortly, just to dot the I's and cross the T's, as they say. as to what's happening there at the London Stadium. I can tell you that goal stood for Cagliari. They've beaten Frosinone by 4-3. So it's finished Cagliari 4, Frosinone 3. Cagliari scoring 2 late goals in the 94th and 96th minute to earn all 3 points in that game in Serie A this afternoon. Big win that for Cagliari, of course, who were bottom of the table going into that game. It is, in fact, their first win of the season, but still struggling this campaign. I just want to know if we can actually head back to Jack just to tie up the details of that VAR decision on that red card, which wasn't given. Jack.
Yeah, it was all just a bit chaotic there. I don't think it did go to VAR review, but there definitely was. Obviously, everything is reviewed regardless, but there was a pause in a moment that looked like that was potentially the case. What happened was, it was a really aggressive tackle on Tarkowski, on Mohamed Kudus. Tarkowski then appears to just have a little kick at him, and then it just caused a complete uproar between the two sides. Pickford, never a stranger to a fight, getting right in amongst it. Kudus getting right in amongst it as well, and both ended up in the book. So yeah, it was just a booking for both for the scuffle that happened after the challenge, and we are back playing here at London Stadium. 28 minutes played. It's still West Ham 0, Everton 0.
I can tell you that Kilmarnock are now leading Aberdeen by 2-0 in the Scottish Premiership. Marley Watkins has scored the second goal there for Kilmarnock. They're into the 68th minute, and at the moment, Killy are heading towards all 3 points in that game, which would lift them up into fourth spot in the Scottish Premiership table. Of course, we've had plenty of action taking place in the Premier League this weekend. We've got plenty of action, of course, taking place this afternoon. We're less than half an hour away from kick-off. That's Brighton against Fulham, Liverpool against Nottingham Forest, and Aston Villa against Luton Town. We'll be going around the grounds again in a few minutes' time to get all the latest team news as we continue with our build-up to the 3 o'clock kickoffs. And, of course, we will continue to look ahead as well to the big Manchester derby kicking off at 4:30 this afternoon as United host Manchester City. But as I mentioned, we've had some great action this weekend already. Of course, it all kicked off on Friday night. Crystal Palace beaten by Spurs 2-1 at Selhurst Park. The Spurs continued their unbeaten run this season in the Premier League in the weekend's curtain raiser on Friday night. Son Heung-min scoring his 8th goal of the campaign after Joel Ward had put through his own net to give Spurs the lead. Being joined now by John Kane. John, I know a club obviously very, very dear to your heart, and their amazing start to the season continues.
It has indeed, hasn't it? I mean, it was a bit of a struggle, wasn't it, in the first half for Spurs against Palace on Friday. But in the end of the day, in the second half, I think that Joel Ward own goal more or less sort of opened the goal scoring chances after that. And because in the first half, I think Newcastle, Crystal Palace, in fact, they had about 2-3 chances on goal, and Spurs had none in the first half. But in the second half, it was all change. Palace did play quite well, to be fair, in that game. Give them that. But the way Spurs are playing has been very, very interesting to watch, isn't it? And I'm sure Jack Heston, who is a resident Celtic fan, can tell us how good Ange Postecoglou is or was at Celtic and how he is at Spurs now. I think with Spurs fans, they're very happy with the way things are going at the moment. But I don't think... I'll be very surprised if anyone getting carried away and winning the league this season. Title challenges, I really don't know. I think the problem that Spurs have is very similar to what Arsenal had last season. There was lack of depth when you compare it to teams like Manchester City and Liverpool. You can take all 11 players from Man City and Liverpool, and they can still come back with their second-rating team, and they can still probably beat you. Whereas with Spurs and Arsenal, you take 3-4 players, and then they've only got 3-4 world-class players who probably will be on the bench. So I think Spurs' problem, and Arsenal's problem again this season, I think it will be the depth when you compare it to Manchester City, who, when it comes to suspensions, which is going to happen eventually, the tiredness, the longer games is going to be hard work. The only thing that probably goes in Spurs' favour when you compare it to Arsenal, Man City, Liverpool, and even Villa, to that matter, is Spurs are not in Europe, so they're not being distracted by anything else. However, Spurs fans, I can tell you, they are enjoying the trip at the moment, but I don't think anyone's getting carried away.
And just a word on James Maddison, John, because he could arguably he could be the signing of the season. I know he wasn't on the score sheet on Friday night, but he's been instrumental in their success so far this campaign.
He has been absolutely brilliant, hasn't he? The way Maddison came in, and normally players take time, don't they, to adapt in any league, in any game, in any team. But James Maddison just feels like he's at home already, isn't he? And he's just been absolutely brilliant for Spurs. And like you said, I think people say, well, Kane left. Was that the problem? Is Kane? I've seen a few comments on social media. Was Kane was the problem? Kane was not the problem, because when Andrew Postecoglou took over the team, Kane was scoring in pre-season. I think he scored 3 or 4 against Shakhtar Donetsk in a friendly. I think the problem was actually with the managers who they played in a different kind of style that didn't suit Tottenham, didn't suit the players. You look at the players that Spurs got; they're very attacking-minded players. And when you have someone like Jose Mourinho and Antonio Conte, which is no fault of their own, they like to play in a certain kind of way. And I think if Kane was in this Tottenham squad, I think he would have been probably top scorer at the moment. But past is past, present is present. Kane is having a great time at Bayern Munich. He scored 3 goals yesterday for in the Bundesliga with the 8-0 win against Darmstadt. But Spurs got their own journey, and they were so much doing very, very well. And James Maddison more or less took over from that Kane role, isn't he? And now Son is going a bit more forward, and he's the one who's scoring the goals, and he's been a good captain as well for the club.
Well, in the early Saturday lunchtime kickoff yesterday, Brentford, meanwhile, they continued their impressive record at Stamford Bridge, beating Chelsea now for the 3rd successive season. Great record with goals from Ethan Pinnock and Brian Mbeumo as well. The Bees have now extended their unbeaten run in London derbies to 13 matches, which is a terrific record. Chelsea, meanwhile, well, their mini revival has stopped right in its tracks, isn't it?
No, absolutely. I mean, I can't remember who it was yesterday, and said actually Chelsea not even the best team in West London anymore, and Brentford are 10th, Chelsea 11th, and Brentford now got 13 points, and it doesn't matter who you are, and if you go to Stamford Bridge, it's always going to be a hard game, isn't it? It's Stamford Bridge, the atmosphere there is electric as far as the Chelsea fans are concerned, and the way Pochettino, I think he needs some time, because he has so many new players in that club, and it's very hard for anyone, doesn't matter if it's Pochettino or anyone else, to try and shape that squad. And of course, Jackson is not really been on the best of forms, hasn't he, for Chelsea so far? When you compare it, he wasn't great for Villarreal, and I have to be very honest about that watching last season. But obviously, Chelsea saw something in him, but hasn't clicked just yet for that man. And yesterday, that the performance wasn't that bad, but at the end of the day, it's the score lines that count, isn't it? And Brentford going there and beating them 2-0 is a fantastic win for them. But Chelsea, they're going to have to do something, because as we know, managers in these big clubs are not safe, haven't they? We've seen it with Graham Potter, we've seen it with Louis van Gaal at Man United, we see it so many players. When teams start slacking with these big clubs, the boards are not hesitant in sacking their managers.
No, they're not. You do wonder how much time Poch has really got to effectively turn it around, because I think they won 3 matches on the bounce, didn't they, recently? Beating Brighton in the cup, I seem to remember, and then I think they beat Fulham, and then they, of course, got that 4-1 win at Burnley as well, which was, let's face it, against Burnley, have really struggled so badly this season, throwing away effectively 2 points at home to Arsenal last weekend. And I mean, as I say, how much time does he got, John? Because Chelsea, like it or not, they are one of the big sides in the Premier League.
Yeah, I mean, I personally, I don't think he's got a lot of time. I think he's probably got another 2 games, because with the amount of money that Todd Bowley has actually invested in that club, I think he personally will probably feel that he needs results fast and soon.
He certainly does. That's Brentford, of course, beating Chelsea 2-0 yesterday at Stamford Bridge. We're going to hear right now from the Chelsea boss, Mauricio Pochettino, with his thoughts following that defeat at home to the Bees.
The defeat is clear, the analysis, because after the first half we should score and we didn't score. I think it's easy when you dominate and create chances and you no concede chances and the opponent didn't cross the half line. I think you should score. If you don't score after, you need to blame ourselves and we need to blame ourselves because we were not nasty, or clinical in front of the goal. We create chances, but we didn't score.
Chelsea head coach Mauricio Pochettino discussed with his post-match thoughts following the 2-0 loss at home to Brentford yesterday afternoon. Many thanks to John Kane there. We'll be continuing our Premier review a little bit later on. John thinking he's probably only got maybe another couple of matches to save his job, Pochettino. What would your thoughts be on that? Just having a look at Chelsea's up-and-coming fixtures. They've got Blackburn at home in the EFL Cup in midweek. They did dispatch Brighton in the last round in the same competition. And then next weekend, away to Tottenham at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and then at home to Manchester City the week after that. And then following the international break, away to Newcastle. So 3 very, very difficult matches for Chelsea coming up, and 3 matches where Mauricio Pochettino may need to get something out of them in order to save his job. We shall wait and see. As I said, John Kane will be joining me a little bit later on to continue our Premier League review from all the action that's taken place this weekend. We, of course, have action currently underway at the moment at the London Stadium. We are approaching half-time there. West Ham against Everton. Who's looking the more likely to score at the moment in this game? Jack Hesson.
I would say it would be West Ham look the more likely to score, but it really has been a tight game of football. West Ham playing some good football themselves. They're trying to get the ball down the left-hand side in particular. Paqueta looking like he's having a strong game. Kudos looking dangerous. They've had 58% of possession so far in this game. Everton, however, have been defending resolutely, as you would expect from a Sean Dyche team, and also looking to try and hit them on the counter. So it has been a fascinating encounter, but we're really just looking for the first big chance of the game to spark it into life. 40 minutes played, it's still West Ham 0, Everton 0.
Big goal for Sheffield Wednesday in the Championship. They are now leading Rotherham by 2-0 into the 36th minute of that game. It's Sheffield Wednesday 2, Rotherham 0 in the Championship. Elsewhere from around Europe, before we go around the Premier League grounds again as we build up to the 3 o'clock kickoffs, Kilmarnock leading Aberdeen still by 2-0 with about 13 minutes remaining in the Scottish Premiership. Rangers at home to Hearts. That kicks off at 4 o'clock this afternoon. In the Dutch Eredivisie, as I mentioned earlier, Twente beat Feyenoord by 2-1. Great result for them. Couple of latest scores to give you. FC Volendam 0, Excelsior 0. And how about this? They're into the 10th minute and we have a goal.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
A goal at the Philips Stadion in Eindhoven, that is. And it is PSV 0. Ajax 1. What a surprise. What a surprise. PSV, of course, with that 100% record this season. 9 matches played, 9 victories, and they are trailing at home to Ajax. Branko van den Boomen has opened the scoring there for Ajax, who, of course, have been in free fall this season. They were beaten by Brighton in the Europa League on Thursday night as well. And the results certainly not going their way in the Europa League. Looks as though they're heading out of that competition. And as I said, going into this match, they were second from bottom in the Eredivisie table, but they have taken the lead at PSV. So we'll keep you posted on all the latest news from that game. PSV 0, Ajax 1. In the German Bundesliga, not quite underway in the matches taking place today. We have Frankfurt against Dortmund kicking off at 3:30. Leverkusen at home to Freiburg kicking off at 5:30. Leverkusen with an opportunity to go back to the top of the Bundesliga table this evening with a victory. In La Liga, 3 minutes of the first half remaining, and it's still goalless between Betis and Osasuna. Into Italian Serie A, our final score to give you. I gave it to you, I think, earlier. What a cracking game it was, though. Cagliari 4, Frosinone 3. 2 goals deep into stoppage time from Cagliari, giving them the points this afternoon. Inter at home to Roma and Napoli at home to Milan later on this evening. Into French League 1 we go, and they are approaching full time in the match between Brest and Paris Saint-Germain. 2 apiece in that game. PSG were 2-0 up as well. Kylian Mbappe getting amongst the goals as well. But Brest have brought it back and are currently on level terms with PSG with about 6 or 7 minutes remaining in that game. So it's Brest 2, PSG 2. We'll be looking at all the other European action that's taking place in a little bit more depth this afternoon. Into the Belgian Jupiler Pro League we go. And it's Club Brugge 1, Antwerp 0. Although I think we have news coming in that Antwerp may have equalised in that game. Into the 57th minute, it's Club Brugge 1, Antwerp 0. But we will tie up whether or not Antwerp have equalised in just a few moments. And just to remind you, there's plenty of action as well taking place in the Nigerian Premier League later on today with a few 4 o'clock kickoffs and another late kickoff as well, kicking off at 6 o'clock, Sporting Lagos against Niger. So we will keep you fully across all of the latest scores from the Nigerian Premier League as well later on throughout the course of this edition of Football Live here on Brila FM. I can tell you that it remains Club Brugge 1, Antwerp 0 in the Belgian Jupiler Pro League. Manchester United against Manchester City, of course. That's the game of the weekend in the English Premier League, kicking off at 4:30. Kendall Rowan is our reporter for us on hand this afternoon, and she will be joining us a little bit later on to give us all the important team news ahead of that game as we look ahead to it. And of course, a reminder that we will be joined by Ayo Alabi from NairaBet in about 45 minutes time, there or thereabouts, as we look ahead to all the betting opportunities ahead of that clash at Old Trafford, Manchester United against Manchester City. Just looking at some of the stats for the Manchester derby this afternoon, and it doesn't really bode too well for Manchester United, although they are looking to make it back-to-back Premier League victories against their City rivals, of course, having beaten them last season by 2-1 at Old Trafford, with Marcus Rashford getting the winner 8 minutes from time on that occasion. United against City, kicking off, as I say, at 4:30 this afternoon. Let's go around the Premier League grounds again now for the matches kicking off at 3 o'clock. Our first port of call is going to be to Anfield. Liverpool against Nottingham Forest. And let's just tie up the team news as we build up to that game now with our reporter Richard Bond.
Welcome back to Anfield, where we continue to build to this match between rejuvenated Liverpool and struggling Nottingham Forest. All is going rosy on the red side of Merseyside after a mini blip, with Jurgen Klopp's side looking imperious in both the Premier League and in Europe, with Mo Salah back in red-hot form down in City rivals Everton last week. All eyes will be once again on the Egyptian who scored or assisted in the last 13 Premier League games. Today, Salah will form part of a front three, which is missing Luis Diaz for personal reasons. Darwin Nunez coming in to replace the Colombian in the Liverpool 11, and the only change from their 2-0 win against the Toffees. Andy Robertson and Thiago Alcantara both out with long-term injuries, whilst Curtis Jones serves the final match for a 3-match ban for a red card against Tottenham last month. After a month out, Cody Gakpo is back on the bench today. As for Forest, Nigerian striker Taiwo Awoniyi is back on the bench this afternoon after recovering from a thigh problem, and that'll be a welcome boost for Forest boss Steve Cooper. The Forest boss has somewhat of an injury crisis, seeing no less than 9 first-teamers sidelined. Anthony Elanga has chosen to start up front after creating both the goals against Luton last week, but Forest are lacking an out-and-out striker after Chris Wood dropped out of the squad with a hamstring injury today. Also starts for Ola Aina and Musa Dikate as Forest manager Steve Cooper makes 2 changes and a probable formation change to a back 5. Liverpool have won all their home games by 2 or more this year. Will he keep that record up today? We'll have to see. It's Liverpool Forest kicking off here in around just over 10 minutes.
We will indeed. Thanks very much, Rich Bond, our reporter, covering that game for us this afternoon. Let's head across now to Villa Park. Aston Villa taking on Luton Town. We're about 12 minutes away from kickoff. Here's Duka Dobma.
Yes, obviously I said earlier Aston Villa are unchanged, unsurprisingly so from their 4-1 thrashing at West Ham. Just a big milestone though. Douglas Luiz obviously was integral to their win at West Ham last weekend. He's making his 150th career appearance. today. And then Luton, another milestone in their squad, and that is Gabe Osho, the centre-back who's come back in today. He makes his 50th English League career start. So some milestones in both sides today. And also another interesting fact, Rob Edwards also made 9 appearances for Villa as a footballer himself. Obviously Marvellous Nakamba, who was signed from Villa for Luton. So there's a lot of sort of links in between both sides today. But like you say, about 10 minutes till kick-off here. And hopefully for some goals here.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, a real daunting prospect for the Hatters this afternoon against an Aston Villa side who are just scoring goals for fun at the moment. Let's just check in now back at the Amex Stadium. Brighton at home to Fulham, of course, this afternoon. And just to type all the latest team news as we build up to that game, here's Kane Wears.
Yeah, Chris, Roberto De Zerbi's made 6 changes from Brighton's 2-0 win over Ajax in the Europa League on Thursday, with Igor, Julio, Adam Webster, Dahoud, Adam Lallana, Baleba and Evan Ferguson coming into the starting 11, with the likes of Joel Veltman, Van Heck, Milner, Gilmore, Ansu Fati and João Pedro dropping out. Solly March and Danny Welbeck joined a lengthy injury list following last Saturday's loss to Man City. For Fulham, Andreas Pereira is on the bench for Fulham today in one of 3 changes from the 2-0 defeat to Tottenham last time out. Alex Iwobi comes into the team alongside Raul Jimenez, who replaces Carlos Vinicius up front, and Harrison Reed starts in midfield in place of Sasa Lukic. As we mentioned earlier on, Fulham have always beaten Brighton when it comes to these top flight games in there. So if you're looking for a bit of a bet with Naira Bet, Brighton wins 1.60, Fulham's 5.50 and the draw's 4.33, subject to change.
Thanks very much, Kane. And finally, just get a very quick update from all the latest news at the London Stadium. West Ham against Everton. We're still approaching half-time there. Jack Hesson.
Yeah, we're coming up to the cusp of half-time, literally just seconds to go until the half-time whistle blows, and I definitely think if it stays like this that Sean Dyche will be the happier of the 2 managers. Everton have defended resolutely in this first half. They've kept West Ham's chances to a minimum despite West Ham having the majority of possession, and it's been a really good defensive performance for Everton, but really are looking at the first big chance of the game to get things going. Cusp of half-time, it's still West Ham 0, Everton 0.
Betis 1, Osasuna 0 at half-time, and PSV have equalised at home to Ajax. You're listening to Football Live right now. We're going to head back over to Tony and the crew in Nigeria for all of your social media interaction and a roundup of all the Nigerian players that have been in action over the course of the weekend. We'll be back with you very, very shortly here on Football Live.
Powered by NairaBet. This is Football Live with Chris Baldwin.
And welcome back to Football Live. Many thanks to our colleagues in Nigeria. Chris Baldwin here with you right the way through until 6:30 this evening with all the best coverage you could possibly get from all the Premier League action, of course, taking place this afternoon. West Ham against Everton, of course, they went in goalless at the break. West Ham 0, Everton 0. Let's get across now to Jack Hesson for an overall assessment of that first half. And do you think that Sean Dyche will probably be the more happy of the 2 managers, Jack?
I think he'll absolutely be the more happier of the 2 managers. They defended really well, Everton, in that first half, and above all else, they kept themselves in the game as well, despite being outpossessed. The stats speak for themselves. West Ham 59% possession to Everton's 41, but they both only got a shot on goal each. In part, that was because of some sloppy defensive play by West Ham, lacking communication at the back between Paqueta trying to pass it back to Gerd. Jack Harrison managed to clip on the end of it to give himself a good opportunity, but his shot was really weak on goal. For West Ham, really the best chance of the game came in the early stages. A long ball from Lucas Paqueta over the top towards Bone, just almost gets to Bone. If it does, I think he's got a great chance on goal, but Pickford is quick off his line as well to make it difficult for him, and they managed to get the ball away. That really is the best 2 chances of the half for either side in what has been essentially a staring match between the 2, and we're just waiting to see who blinks first.
Thanks very much, Jack. So they will be coming out for the start of the second half very, very shortly then. at the London Stadium, but it remains goalless. West Ham 0, Everton 0. West Ham have lost just 3 of their last 14 Premier League matches at the London Stadium. 1-7 and drawn 4. It's a great record as well, and they have got a good record against Everton as well. But the Toffees at the moment all level at the break with their opponents. And we will let you know, of course, when that second half gets underway. Meanwhile, the action is already underway right now at Anfield, at Villa Park, at the Amex Stadium as well. We'll be going around the grounds very, very shortly here on Football Live for an update on all the early exchanges in that game. Let's just give you a few final scores and latest scores as well. First of all, in the Championship, in the South Yorkshire derby, Sheffield Wednesday leading Rotherham by 2-0. That's a big, big, important game for both sides, especially for Sheffield Wednesday in search of their first win this season. So half-time there, Sheffield Wednesday leading by 2-0 against Rotherham. Kilmarnock have beaten Aberdeen by 2-0. That's a final score there. Rangers and Hearts kicking off in just under an hour's time. In the Dutch Eredivisie, as we mentioned earlier, just before we went to our colleagues in Nigeria, PSV had equalised at home to Ajax. I can tell you that match has been interrupted. No prizes for guessing as to probably why that is, but it is PSV 1, Ajax 1. Ajax, you'll remember, had taken the lead in that game through Branko van den Boomen, but the Mexican Herving Lozano equalising for the league leaders. But interrupted play there, PSV against Ajax. It is currently 1-1 in that game. We'll keep you posted on all the developments there. Elsewhere from around Europe, latest scores to give you. Betis are leading Osasuna by 1-0. They've just about 3 minutes or so into the second half in that game. In Italian Serie A, they've kicked off between Monza and Udinese into the 5th minute there. Currently goalless. And of course, as I mentioned a while ago, a couple of big matches taking place in the top flight of Italian football later on this evening. Inter at home to Roma in a 6 o'clock kickoff. Napoli entertain Milan in an 8:45 kickoff. And into French League 1 we go, and a few final scores. One final score to give you, and what a cracking game it was as well. Brest 2, PSG 3. Big win that for PSG, who were leading before the half-hour mark by 2-0 in that game. Brest brought it back to 2 apiece, but a goal in the 89th minute from Kylian Mbappe, his second in the game, ensured that all 3 points went the way of PSG as they won by 3-2, and is currently goalless in all of the other matches that have just kicked off. They're into about the 7th minute or so in each of these games. Lille against Monaco, Metz against Le Havre, and Montpellier at home to Toulouse. Finally, into the Belgian Jupiler Pro League, a latest score to give you. Club Brugge 1, Antwerp 1, with about 10 minutes or so of the match remaining there. Right. Let's go around the Premier League grounds now for the 3 o'clock kickoffs. Our first port of call is going to be to Anfield, Liverpool against Nottingham Forest. And you would suggest, Rich, that this has got 3 points written all over it for Jurgen Klopp's side this afternoon.
Well, it looks like it could be a long day for Nottingham Forest. The approach they've made to the game really is to put 10 men behind the ball. They've gone with Elanga up top, and Liverpool are very dominant in possession in these opening stages. They've had a chance. Ball came in. It was Salah who picked the ball up on the flank. He's crossed it in, looking for Nunez. He's just got a slight touch on it. Perhaps should have done a little bit better with it. He's flicked past, and it's gone wide of the post, of the far post, with Turner looking pretty comfortable there. I think he might have had it anyway, but ominous signs at the moment. Szobolowski is sort of dominating the midfield, really. At the stage, he looks like he's going to control play in that bit with McAllister. Those two looking very good so far in these early stages, though. So at the moment, though, 7 minutes gone. Liverpool 0, Nottingham Forest 0.
So goalless it remains then at Anfield. Let's head across now to Villa Park. Aston Villa against Luton Town for an update on the early exchanges in that game. Here's Duka Dobma.
Yeah, fantastic chance for Villa early on. It was a brilliant ball played down the line to Moussa Diaby, the new signing in the summer. And he plays a ball into the box. Ollie Watkins takes a brilliant touch just to lay it off to Zaniolo on the volley. and his shot just goes wide of the post. A really good chance for Villa, and Luton just look all over the place defensively. I can really see another thumping victory for Aston Villa.
Well, we just seem to have lost Duca there, but I can tell you it remains goalless. Aston Villa 0, Luton Town 0. As we head over to the Amex now for an update on Brighton against Fulham. Here's Kane Wears.
Yeah, very cagey start of the affair so far, with Brighton, who look like they're playing a back three today, with Julio, Igor, Lewis Dunk and Adam Webster building up in that three. But it's interesting to see in terms of how they're coping actually, and how they're building up in a bit of a cat and mouse of such, where they're trying to get Fulham to get out of their own half and trying to get them to come and press them. But the first chance of the game actually does come to Brighton, where Fulham fail to clear a ball that's just crossed in, and it just drops to the edge of the box, and Baleba just looks to just bend one into the left-hand corner, but Bert Leno does well to push it away. Brighton recycle the ball, and another cross again comes in from Lallana, but the goalkeeper does well to claim it and settle the game down. So 8 minutes here at the Amex. It's Brighton 0, Fulham 0.
So we still await our first goal then in the 3 o'clock kickoffs. I can tell you that they have restarted at the London Stadium. West Ham against Everton. About 3.5 minutes of the second half played there, and it still remains goalless. We'll be back across with our reporter, Jack. In fact, let's cross over to Jack now for an update on that game. And I think the Hammers have come pretty close to breaking the deadlock there. Jack.
Yeah, an excellent chance there for Jared Bowen. 7 goals in his last 10 Premier League games, and he was so close to making it. 8 goals, a ball from the edge of the area by Paqueta, whipped him beautifully to the back post. Bowen's there, he goes for a diving header, and it just goes above the crossbar and out for a goal kick. So easily the best chance of the game so far for West Ham. They're knocking at the door here, 48 minutes played. It's still West Ham 0, Everton 0.
So we're still in search of our first goal in the Premier League this Sunday afternoon here on Football Live. Let's head back to Anfield now. We were with Richard Bond just a while ago. But Rich, you mentioned in your last report it could be a very long afternoon for Nottingham Forest. And I think Jurgen Klopp's side are really creating and carving some opportunities there and look very likely to score any time soon.
Well, I think you might be coming to me for Liverpool chances quite regularly this afternoon if things are going to carry on like this. Forest at the races at the moment, and Liverpool really should be ahead. Szoboszlai forced the corner on that left-hand side. He's looking very dominant. Ball came in from Alexander-Arnold. Perfect delivery. Right on the head of Diego Jota. Should do better. Straight into the hands of Matt Turner. You know, Liverpool should be ahead, but at the moment they're not. It's 10 minutes on the clock. Liverpool 0, Nottingham Forest 0.
I can tell you that play has restarted. The match is underway again in the Dutch Eredivisie. PSV against Ajax. It's currently 1-1 there, of course, after that brief interruption. But they have resumed with a score at 1-1 there. You listen to Football Live on this Sunday afternoon, 12 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock. We'll be across all the goals, of course, as they go in throughout the course of the afternoon here. We'll be building up to the big Manchester derby, of course, kicking off at 4:30. Manchester United against Manchester City. But we have goal news for you from the London Stadium.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
And Everton have taken the lead there. It is now West Ham 0, Everton 1 into the early stages of the second half. And I can tell you that Dominic Calvert-Lewin has opened his account this afternoon, and Everton's in the 51st minute. It's West Ham 0, Everton 1. We'll be heading back over there very shortly. In fact, let's cross there straight now to Jack Hesson. Great start to the second half here for Everton, Jack.
Absolutely, Everton have stunned the home side here, and they've caught them on the break. A long ball out from Areola. Gets intercepted by Garner in the middle of the park. He then launches Everton into the attack, gets ball to Calvert-Lewin. Calvert-Lewin works it well with Dwight McNeil on the right-hand side, gets it back to Calvert-Lewin, and on the turn, it's an excellent finish, drilled into the bottom right-hand corner on the turn. Fantastic finish. That's what he can do, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, when he's on form, and Everton take a shock lead at the London Stadium. 51 minutes played. It's West Ham 0, Everton 1.
Oh, what a big goal that is for Everton. That is Dominic Calvert-Lewin's 50th Premier League goal. He scored more goals against West Ham than against any other club as well. 6 now against the Hammers. And they lead at Everton lead at the London Stadium by 1-0. So let's just recap the latest scores for you in the other matches taking place. They're all still goalless. Goalless at Villa Park, Aston Villa 0, Luton 0. Also at the Amex, Brighton 0, Fulham 0. And at Anfield as well, Liverpool 0, Nottingham Forest 0. And as you just heard there, Everton, a goal to the good at the London Stadium now against West Ham. Let's get all the latest betting news now on each of those matches and others from our resident betting man himself, John Kane. John.
The latest in-play betting odds from NairaBet.
Yes, the latest odds from NairaBet website. Of course, all these prices are subject to change. And just you heard, Everton just taking the lead away to West Ham. They're leading by a goal to nil after 53 minutes. West Ham now are 6.50 for the win. The draw is 3.60, and an Everton away win is still a decent 1.67. Brighton, Fulham, 15 minutes gone in the first half, still 0-0. Brighton are 1.67 for the win. The draw is 4.20, and the Fulham away win is just gone down to 5.0. Liverpool Forest, as you expected, will be your firm favourites for that game. Also 0-0. Liverpool are 1.25 for the win. The draw is 6.50, and it's just gone down to Forest to 11.0. I'm sure Richard Bond can tell us why the odds has gone down a bit for Forest. As for Villa, still 0-0 at home to Luton. Again, Villa are firm favourites for that home fixture. Villa are 1.33 for the win. The draw is 5.50, and it's just gone up for Luton to 9.0. In the Spanish La Liga, 57 minutes gone. It's Betis 1, Osasuna 0. In fact, Betis just had a goal disallowed. So Betis now are 1.30 for the win. The draw is 5.0, and Osasuna to win is just gone down to 13.0. And finally, the game they're concentrating on in the Dutch Eredivisie, 36 minutes gone, is still 1-0 between PSV and Ajax. PSV are favourite for that game. They are 1.44 for the win. The draw is 4.50, and finally Ajax has just gone down to 7.50. All these odds are from NairaBet, and it's all subject to change.
That's John Kane with all the latest betting news there for the matches taking place this afternoon in the Premier League and around Europe. And in a little under 15 minutes time or so, we will be joined by Ayo Alabi from NairaBet as we look ahead to all of the betting opportunities on offer for the clash at Old Trafford this afternoon in the 191st Manchester Derby as United host Manchester City. This is Football Live.
If you're betting on sports this week, why not make your money go further? Sign up to NairaBet for 11 days of risk-free betting. If your bet loses, you will get your stake back as a free bet up to 2,000 Naira. All you need to do is register a new account with NairaBet today and qualify to get up to 22,000 Naira in free bets. Visit www.nairabet.com/bonus for more information. General and free bet terms apply. Must be over 18. Must be KYC approved. Must place a qualifying bet. Bets must include football, tennis or basketball markets. Please gamble responsibly.
Sports Radio 88.9 Brila FM.
Oh my word, what is going on here?
You are listening to Football Live on Brila FM 88.9 and 101.1 FM.
I don't know how to describe it anymore.
4 hours of football every Saturday and Sunday on Brila FM with Football Live.
So close, but yet so far.
Powered by NairaBet.
It's come out of nowhere, really.
The Premier League, La Liga, the Bundesliga, Serie A, the Saudi Pro League.
There's action everywhere you look.
Live and exclusive on Brila FM.
I want more goals. It's a show that's packed to the brim.
It's madness, it's chaotic.
Superb finish.
You are listening to Football Live.
Brila. News and engagements never stop on our website
www.brila.net
and our social media handles
889 Brila FM
on Facebook.
Yes, 889 Brila FM on Facebook, at at 889 Brila FM.
On Instagram.
Got it? At 889 Brila FM on Instagram.
And on Twitter.
It's at Brila FM 889 and Brila Sports TV on Google+. Brila.
News and engagements never stop.
So do remember to like all our pages. Do like us.
You are listening to Football Live on Brila FM.
Let's get back to the action on Football Live. Powered by NairaBet. This is Football Live with Chris Baldwin.
And we have a goal at Villa Park to tell you about.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
And I can tell you, Aston Villa have taken the lead at home to Luton Town. Let's hear all about it now from Duka Dogma. Duka.
I tell you what, it's an excellent training ground routine of a set piece. It was Douglas Luiz had a free kick pretty much by the corner flag, and he plays it sort of to the edge of the area as a dummy from Diaby finds McGinn. McGinn takes it round Dogbene and then finishes brilliantly with his right foot. And I tell you what, this goal has definitely been coming for Aston Villa. They've been pummeling the pressure onto Luton, and it's a well-deserved lead. Aston Villa 1, Luton 0.
So a great start there for Aston Villa. John McGinn with the opening goal there for the Villains against a Luton side that, of course, really been struggling this season. Just the one victory coming up Everton a few weeks ago. But they are facing a difficult encounter at Villa Park this afternoon, and they've got it all to do, trailing by a goal to 0. I can tell it remains Brighton 0, Fulham 0, Liverpool 0, Nottingham Forest 0, and it's still West Ham 0, Everton 1. We'll be back around those grounds very, very shortly here on Football Live. Goal news, further goal news that is from the Philips Stadion in Eindhoven.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
And what a surprise this is turning out to be, because it's now PSV 1, Ajax 2. Ajax have restored their lead. Brian Brobbey has scored the second goal there for Ajax 5 minutes before the break. They took the lead, you'll remember, through Branko van den Boomen. That was cancelled out as PSV equalised in that game with an equalising goal from Herving Lozano, but Ajax are back in front there. Now, that really is an astonishing result, given obviously Ajax and their problems at the moment, both on and off the pitch as well. And as I said, they've made their worst start to a campaign ever. Departed company, didn't they, with manager Maurice Stein earlier in the week as well, after just 11 matches in charge. Going into that game, second from bottom in the Dutch Eredivisie as well. But they are 2-1 up at PSV at the moment, who, of course, had a 100% record, 9 wins from 9 matches. So we will keep tabs on that throughout the course of the afternoon. But an astonishing game unfolding there at the Philips Stadion in Eindhoven, where it is PSV 1, Ajax 2. Let's just wrap up a couple of other latest scores and results for you before we go back around the grounds. They've hit the hour mark at Hillsborough. It remains Sheffield Wednesday 2, Rotherham 0 in the Championship. Into the Bundesliga we go. That no latest scores to give you there, because they kick off at 3:30. Frankfurt against Dortmund. Leverkusen in action later on this afternoon, and a chance to go back to the top of the table. In La Liga, Betis are still leading Osasuna by a goal to 0 into the 65th minute there. Italian Serie A at the midway point of the first half, and it remains Monza 0, Udinese 0. Into League 1 we go. Lille 0, Monaco 0 is the latest score for you there. It's probably a standout fixture this weekend in French League 1. Monaco with a chance to go back to the top of League 1 if they win this afternoon. But Lille have made a really impressive start to the season, unbeaten in 5 matches now in all competitions, and going well in Europe as well. Currently goalless there, and also goalless between Metz and Le Havre, and Montpellier are leading Toulouse, who was stuffed by Liverpool, of course, in midweek in the Europa League. They lead by a goal to 0 there into the 24th minute. And finally, in the Belgian Jupiler Pro League, a result to give you from earlier on today. Club Brugge 2, Antwerp 1 is how it finished there. So you're up to date with all the latest scores from around Europe. You're listening to Football Live, 24 minutes past 3 on this Sunday afternoon. Ayo Alabi will be joining us very, very shortly. But let's go around the grounds once again here on Football Live. Let's just check back in there with Jack Hesson at the London Stadium for an update on West Ham against Everton. A surprising scoreline there at the moment still, Jack.
It is a surprising scoreline, but chances are coming for both sides now. West Ham having a couple of good chances from the restart. Jared Bowen just on the edge of the 6-yard box. A volley just goes wide. Lucas Paqueta, a free kick into the back post. If he took his time and tried to settle himself on the ball, he may have had a good chance, but he tried the extravagant overhead kick and miskicked it, and it went wide. And then Everton had a golden opportunity to double their lead. Just a long ball up the park from Pickford. Zuma and Aguirre try and go for the same ball. They both clatter into each other, and the ball fell so gratefully to Doucouré, who then had the goal at his mercy. Him versus Areola. He takes a great hit at it, destined for the bottom left-hand corner, and forced Areola into a world-class save to keep West Ham in this game. So really that has been the story of the game so far. West Ham dominating possession, dominating most of the chances, but Everton just always looking for the one breaking play to try and get them up the field. 63 minutes played, it's still West Ham 0, Everton 1.
David Moyes, of course, up against his former club, and at the moment he's being undone by them. Everton still a goal to the good there. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who has a great record against West Ham with the only goal of the game there. As you heard from our reporter Jack Hesson. As we continue to go around the grounds, let's just check back in at Anfield now. Liverpool against Nottingham Forest, and surprising news that we haven't had any goals there yet. Rich Bond.
It is very surprising. Liverpool 80% possession so far. You can see the way this is going, really. It's just a matter of time of if they're going to break them down or how they're going to break them down, if Forest can hold on. But they've had half chance as such, really, with... it was a lovely little ball played from Konate over the top as the Forest back five kind of pushed forward. It went over the top to Diogo Jota, who's got 5 in 4 against Forest in recent times. So he's clearly enjoys playing against this opposition. He ran onto it, trying to get there, but Turner was aware just to sweep that one up and deny the play. Then we had a good chance really with McAllister, really. He found a bit of space, dropped a shoulder, had a shot from about 25 yards, and it just went wide the post. Liverpool very much on top in this one, but we've also had the beautiful and the bizarre from Shobalazai. He sold his man, absolutely just dropping his shoulder, leaving him for dead, and he's kind of gone away from the player. He's taken on another player, and he's just looking brilliant. He's looking for that final pass, and he's looked up, and he's passed the ball with one foot. It's hit the other, and it's just gone completely into the corner out of play, to the amusement of the crowd. So it's one of those games so far where we've had a couple of chances, but we're still goalless, but there's plenty of entertainment. It's Liverpool 0, Forest 0, 26 minutes on the clock.
The lock has been broken at the Amex Stadium.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
Well, this young man scored a hat-trick back in September as Brighton beat Newcastle 3-1 on that occasion, and he's opened Brighton scoring this afternoon. Evan Ferguson has made it Brighton 1, Fulham 0. Let's hear all about that goal now from Kane Wiz.
Yeah, Fulham will be really disappointed in terms of the goal, and it just comes from a transition in possession where Adam Lallana wins the ball just in between probably the middle of Fulham's defensive half, and he just slides it just straight in Evan Ferguson, who's just on the edge of the box, and he just turns and just rifles it in past the goalkeeper Bert Leno on his right hand side into the bottom corner. Fully deserved lead. 26 minutes in, Brighton 1, Fulham 0.
Brighton a goal to the good. Aston Villa were a goal to the good the last time we were with our reporter Duka Dogma.
Yeah, no, Aston Villa are fully in control here. They had a really, really good chance. It was Ollie Watkins down the right-hand side who sort of out-muscled Alfie Doughty, and they managed to get the ball and run into the box and put a ball across to Zaniolo, and Thomas Kaminski makes a fantastic save. But I don't think Luton have had any sort of spell of possession in the Villa half. It's all been Aston Villa, and this really could be 5 or 6 as it's going. Villa are creating chances for fun, and once they find that back of the net 2 or 3 times, it's Yeah, it could really be a cricket score by the end of this game.
So Luton still trailing by a goal to nil at Villa Park then. John McGinn in the 17th minute there for Aston Villa. Let's just recap those latest scores for you then from the 3 o'clock kickoffs in the Premier League. Aston Villa 1, Luton 0, as you just heard. Brighton now leading Fulham by a goal to nil at the Amex. Evan Ferguson with the goal for the Seagulls. Brighton, of course, have failed to beat Fulham in 6 Premier League matches. Drawn 3 and lost 3, but they have their noses in front at the moment, and it's still goalless at Anfield, as you just heard a minute ago from Rich Bond. Liverpool 0, Nottingham Forest 0. Let's head back to the London Stadium. West Ham against Everton. Are West Ham coming any closer to drawing back onto level terms on that in that game? Jack Hesson.
Well, 67 minutes played, it is still 1-0 to Everton. Everton defending resolutely. They had a really good chance to try and double the lead again. It was Dwight McNeil around about the 30-yard area. Takes a great hit at it, and it forces Areola into a good save. So, at the door, Everton, and they are looking good at the moment. 67 minutes played, it's still West Ham 0, Everton 1.
Thanks very much to Jack Hesson there. So Everton still a goal to the good there at the London Stadium. It's 3:30 on this Sunday afternoon. You are listening to Football Live. We are an hour away from kick-off, of course. The Manchester derby, United at home to Manchester City. It's the first Manchester derby, of course, of the season. We'll be crossing over to our reporter Kendall Rowan in just over half an hour or so to bring you all of the team news and build up ahead of that game. But I'm delighted to say that we are joined once again now from Ayo Alabi from NairaBet. A very good afternoon to you, Ayo. I think we've just lost Ayo for a second.
Can you hear me?
Ayo, can you hear me loud and clear?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you, Ayo. I know you are actually at Old Trafford this afternoon for the late Premier League kickoff. It is, of course,
about to find my way in.
Right, okay. Are you okay to give us all your betting opportunities now, Ayo, or do you want to touch base with us a bit later?
Yes, I am.
You are? Okay, well,
yeah,
it is, of course.
I can do it now.
Okay, well, as I mentioned,
it is
the first.
So if you can hear me.
Can you hear me okay? We've got a bit of a delay, I think.
Yes, I can hear you perfectly.
Excellent, Ayo. We kick off, of course, at 3:30. United looking for back-to-back Premier League home wins against their rivals for the first time since 2011. They've had a bit of a wobble, haven't they, City, recently, but they got back to winning ways in recent matches. And although United have won their last 3 in all competitions, they haven't really been that convincing, have they, Ayo? How does all this reflect in the betting markets with NairaBet?
Well, you won't be surprised to hear that Man City are the favourites for this game at 1.75, and United are 4.50 to win the game, while a draw is 4.00. United are at home, and I remember when Sir Alex Ferguson retired, they said, "Not in my lifetime will I see City come to Old Trafford and be favourites." But here it's happening in his lifetime, and City are long odds-on favourites. They're long favourites, so they're favourites to win this game at 1.75. We're talking about first goal scorers in the game. First goal scorers in the game. Give me one sec, and we've got. Sorry, my screen is just frozen.
That's all right. I could just tell you that Liverpool have taken the lead at home to Nottingham Forest, by the way.
Oh, Liverpool have taken the league against Nottingham Forest. Did they only get worse already? Anyway, United. Can you hear me?
Carry on.
Powered by NairaBet.
We're just breaking the goal news as it happens here on Football Live, but please continue.
If you go to the hello?
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear, Ayo.
Okay, you can hear me loud and clear. So, but if you fancy United to either win the game or to draw, so a double chance is 2.00, while Man City to win the game or to draw is 1.20. Now talking about correct goal score, correct score line. Sorry, I'm nervous a bit. United to win the game 1-0 at 13.00. City, as you said, have been a bit not at their best recently. They lost 2 games. And do you think they will lose today? I don't know. It's a tricky one. It's a derby. Form goes out of the window. But the problem with City is that when City play well, they do win. If they turn up here today and play as well as they could, they will destroy United. It'd be like 2 seasons ago when they won 2-0 here, where it was kind of like a messy kind of 2-0, where they just toyed with United. And a correct scoreline for City to win 1-0 is 7.50. And a City 2-0, which I predict City will win 2-0, is 8.50. It hurts me to say that City will win this game 2-0 or 2-1, 8.50, the both prizes. But that's the reality of the day. There's nothing I would love more than at the end of this game to be telling you, I'm glad I got it wrong if United go ahead and win 2-0 or 3-0. But I think it's going to be a very difficult day for United. Marcus Rashford, to score the first goal, has been in terrible, terrible form this season. And to score the first goal, Marcus Rashford is 4.50. That is a shocking, shocking price. And the centre forward for Haaland is 3.50. Another shocking price. But if you fancy Harry Maguire again, it's 51.00. But I'm going to go City to win the game at 2-0 or 2-1 at 8.50.
Great. Many thanks, Ayo. As I said, I know you're there this afternoon, so enjoy the game, and we look forward to speaking with you again next weekend.
I'll see you next weekend. Thank you, man.
Thanks very much, Ayo. That's Ayo Alabi from Naira Bet. So he's going for City to win at United this afternoon, 2-0, which you can get, 2-0 or 2-1. You can get about 8.500. That price, of course, subject to change with Naira Bet. So many thanks there to Ayo. As I said, he will be joining us again next weekend here on Football Live. Whilst we were speaking with Ayo, I told you there'd been a goal at Anfield. Liverpool had scored to take the lead against Nottingham Forest. There's been a further goal there.
The goals, powered by Naira Bet.
And it's going to form. Liverpool are now leading by 2-0 at home to Nottingham Forest. Rich Bond will be giving us all the details very, very shortly. But Liverpool 2, Nottingham Forest 0 is now the latest from Anfield. Darwin Núñez has scored the second there after Diogo Jota scored the first in the 31st minute. Aston Villa 1, Luton 0, Brighton 1, Fulham 0, and West Ham 0, Everton 1. Still the latest scores in the other matches taking place in the Premier League. We will be back around the grounds very, very shortly here on Football Live. Just a reminder that we'll be joining our colleagues in Nigeria again in about just under 20 minutes time or so for all of your social media comments. In fact, about 15 minutes time or so for all of the action that's taking place this weekend in the Premier League and, of course, from around Europe as well. I can tell you that it's Frankfurt 0, Dortmund 0 in the Bundesliga into the 8th minute there, but Frankfurt have themselves a penalty which has been converted by Omar Marmoush. So Frankfurt now 1-0 up at home to Dortmund. Leverkusen at home to Freiburg, of course, in a 5:30 kickoff later on. Big game that, and an opportunity for Leverkusen to go back to the top of the Bundesliga table this evening. Let's get news now of those couple of goals for Liverpool at Anfield at home to Nottingham Forest. And as expected, really, Rich Bond.
Yes, but we've got a good Liverpool scoreline on show here now. They're 2-0 up against Nottingham Forest. And, well, I'll tell you what, a couple of really good goals. Forest, though, being caught at their own downfall. First goal, Brazilian Murillo got caught in possession on the halfway line by Mo Salah. He sprinted down that left-hand side, running so fast through on that left-hand side, feeding through Núñez outside of him, who draws a really good save from Matt Turner, but the ball falls kindly for Jota to score his sixth goal in 5 games against Forest to put the Liverpool ahead. Second goal then, minutes later, as Forest, they, haven't really got back to grips with the game, and it's a goal for Darwin Núñez. All about Szoboszlai, who's really dictated play in this first half, spraying a pass out to Darwin Núñez, and he's got a really perfect job of just slotting through into goal from 8 yards. So Liverpool 2 to the good, We've got 8 minutes till half-time. Liverpool 2, Nottingham Forest 0.
So Liverpool in command at the moment, unbeaten in their last 24 home league matches against Nottingham Forest. And of course, unbeaten in their last 16 Premier League outings as well at Anfield. And they are 2 goals to the good at home against Steve Cooper's men this afternoon. As we continue to go around the grounds, let's head back to the London Stadium now and get an update from the early kickoff. Of course, West Ham against Everton. Everton, I think, still edging it at the moment. And when we were previewing the match, or when we were discussing this earlier on, Jack, we were saying talking about West Ham and the fact that they seem to have come off the rails a little bit. And they're running out of time to get anything out of this game this afternoon.
Yeah, they are running out of time, and they are struggling to break down a solid Everton backline who have just been resolute the entire afternoon, and they're just 13 minutes away from seeing out which would be a massive victory. And it really has been the case of that since the goal. They've struggled, West Ham, to make any chances, and Everton defending well. They are trying to change things up. David Moyes, Mikel Antonio, who of course was the person who, when Garner won the ball in the middle of the park for the goal, he was the one that was outstrengthed by Garner in the middle of the park to launch that attack. He had a difficult afternoon taking off for Said Benrahma, and James Ward-Prowse, of course, the set-piece king. He had some opportunities from set-pieces this afternoon to get the ball into areas, but nothing came of it, and he's off for Thomas Souček. Although I should also let you know, Said Benrahma, who just came on, is also in the book for a rough challenge on Kudus. So West Ham struggling in this game, and they are struggling for ideas to try and get this back. They're going to perhaps need a bit of luck to get them back into this game. 78 minutes played. It's still West Ham 0, Everton 1.
Yeah, West Ham going into that game on the back of successive defeats, of course, losing to Olympiacos in the Europa League on Thursday night by 2-1, and of course hammered by Aston Villa 4-1 at Villa Park last weekend. Let's just check back in now with Duka Dogma, who's keeping tabs on Aston Villa against Luton Town. Are Villa still edging it at the moment as they approach half-time there, Duka?
Well, yeah, Villa definitely still edging it, but Luton have had a very decent spell in this game. They had a really good chance with Ogbene. He got himself into the penalty area, and you just thinking, you slot it back to Carlton Morris. But no, he hits it down the throat of Emi Martinez, who comfortably claims it. And that's really been the story of Luton's attacks. Anytime they do get forward, the ball just ends up straight in Martinez's hands, and there's no real trouble for the Aston Villa defence. So when they do get those opportunities, they really do have to make them count, especially with set pieces. They've had a couple, especially on the right-hand side. Issa Kabore is really causing Villa a few problems. They're winning a few free kicks down that side. But from those free kicks, nothing is really coming of it. So Luton do need to make that count when they do get those chances. But at the minute, it's still Aston Villa 1, Luton 0.
So John McGinn's goal, still the difference between the two sides. And I must admit, you look at Luton's results in the Premier League. Of course, they have struggled, but they haven't really been turned over this season. They've just been edged out of most of their matches, haven't they? A 1-0 defeat at home to Tottenham, a 2-1 defeat at home to Burnley, and a 1-0 defeat at Fulham as well. And still very much in this game this afternoon at the moment at Villa Park, but they still trail, as I say, courtesy of that John McGinn first half goal for Unai Emery's men. Let's head back to the Amex now for an update on Brighton against Fulham. Here's Kane Wiz.
Yeah, Brighton have had 80% possession, and Fulham are really struggling to get a hold of the ball now. But the only real chance that Fulham have had so far in the game is they finally get forwards, and Harrison Reed wins a corner. The set piece is cleared away, but Anthony Robinson just takes matters into his own hands and just fires a volley from about 25 yards out, but it's badly sliced off target. That, or another photo, if you look down and look at manager Marco Silva, who's just standing in the pouring rain with a towel on his head. 2 instances that sum up Fulham's first half so far. 41 minutes played, Brighton 1, Fulham 0.
So Brighton still leading there at the Amex. Let's head back to the London Stadium now. West Ham have gone close.
Yeah, there was an excellent opportunity there for Mohamed Kudus. The ball scrambled in the box, failed him inside the 6-yard box of the goal at his mercy. He gets a good hit on it, but Pickford was forced into a great save to deny West Ham an equaliser. They are knocking at the door now. 82 minutes played. It's still West Ham 0, Everton 1.
So Everton still a goal up at the London Stadium. And just to recap the other scores for you in the Premier League. Once again, Aston Villa 1, Luton 0, John McGinn. Brighton 1, Fulham 0 is the latest score there from the Amex. Evan Ferguson with the goal for the Seagulls, and Liverpool leading Nottingham Forest, of course, by 2-0. Diogo Jota and Darwin Núñez with the first half goals there for Jurgen Klopp's side. In the Championship, Sheffield Wednesday heading towards all 3 points at home to Rotherham in the South Yorkshire derby, leading by 2-0. They're into the 82nd minute there now. If it stays that way, it will mean that Sheffield Wednesday remain rooted to the foot of the table, but they will close the gap on the sides above them, QPR and Rotherham. However, at the moment, the bottom three are at the moment cutting themselves adrift from the rest of the table. They are in big trouble this season. At the other end of the Championship, of course, Leicester City. Wow, what about them? Of course, came down last season, as we know, from the Premier League. 13 wins from 14 matches so far this season. It looks as though they are heading straight back to the top flight this campaign, and it could be Ipswich Town joining them as well, because they are 9 points clear of Leeds, who are in third place. Ipswich, of course, who only came up from League One last season. Who were the last club to go back-to-back promotions from League One to the Premier League? Answers on a postcard to that one. In the Dutch Eredivisie, Volendam are leading Excelsior by 2-1, although a VAR check on that second goal for Volendam. They just hit the back of the net. However, it is under review at the moment, so stand by for news on that. And further goal news from the Philips Stadion in Eindhoven.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
And this is turning out to be a real humdinger of a game. It's now 2 apiece. PSV 2, Ajax 2. Luc de Jong has equalised for PSV. It's the second time now they come back on level terms this afternoon. So it's 2 apiece there at the Philips Stadion, and they are into the 49th minute of that game. You just sense there's still more goals to come in that match. Into the German Bundesliga we go. Frankfurt leading Dortmund by 1-0 with 16 minutes played there. In La Liga, Osasuna are back on level terms. It's now Betis 1, Osasuna 1. Ruben Garcia with an equalising goal there for Osasuna. Italian Serie A approaching half-time. Monza are leading Udinese by 1-0, courtesy of a goal there from Andrea Colpani. Into French League 1, approaching half-time. Lille 2-0 up at home to Monaco. Now, we said earlier this was going to be a real tricky test for Monaco this afternoon. They, of course, had a chance to go back to the top of the table if they can clinch all 3 points this afternoon. However, Lille, who have been in fine form and fine fettle this season, are now leading Monaco at home by 2-0. Just scoring a couple of moments ago, their second goal, Bafodo Diakite has added a second there for Lille. They lead Monaco by 2-0. Cracking game last season between these two sides when it ended 4-3 in the end. Monaco, they've got a good record there at the Stade Pierre-Mauroy, but having won 4 of their last 6 trips there. However, they've got a mountain to climb now. They're trailing by 2-0. Other latest scores to give you from French League 1. By the way, that is a half-time score now. Metz 0, Le Havre 0, and Montpellier 1, Toulouse 0. A couple of latest scores there as they approach half-time. Into the Belgian Jupiler Pro League, a result from earlier on today. Club Brugge 2, Antwerp 1. So you're fully up to date with all of the latest scores from around Europe. Let's head back and concentrate once now again on the Premier League as we go and whiz around the grounds once again very quickly, because I believe that the half-time whistles are blowing up and down the country. In fact, let's head back to the London Stadium first of all, because we've got some substitution news there. West Ham against Everton. Here's Jack Hesson.
Yeah, it's kitchen sink time now for West Ham. They're taking off Cresswell, a defensive player, and brought on Danny Ings, and he just cannot break down this Everton defence. A good chance there, Paqueta into Kudus. Kudus taking it to the byline, tries to get the ball into Bone in the middle, but Everton are able to recover. And again, that's been the story of the game. Whenever they do try and break the line, Everton are able to recover, and then when they do, when they're able then to try and get a chance on goal, Pickford is there to always make the save. We are on 4 minutes to go, and it is still West Ham 0, Everton 1.
And what a big win that could potentially be for Everton this afternoon. Still leading through that Dominic Calvert-Lewin goal, and if it stays that way, it will move them 5 points clear of Luton Town, who are, of course, trailing at Villa Park at the moment by 1-0. Further goal news from the Dutch Eredivisie.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
Well, I told you that there'd be further goals in this game, and there is, because PSV, for the first time in the match, have now taken the lead. They lead Ajax by 3-2. Ismail Sabari has scored the third goal there for PSV. What a cracking match this afternoon there at the Philips Stadion in Eindhoven. PSV 3, Ajax 2, with about 7 minutes of the second half played. In fact, getting news coming in that has been disallowed. Confirmation coming up very, very shortly. But news just filtering through into my earpiece that goal has been chalked off, and it remains PSV 2, Ajax 2. We'll confirm that very, very shortly. Elsewhere, of course, just to recap the latest scores for you in the Premier League. West Ham 0, Everton 1, Aston Villa 1, Luton 0, Brighton 1, Fulham 0, and Liverpool 2, Nottingham Forest 0. Okay, we'll be back with you again very, very shortly here on Football Live. But right now, we head back to the team in Nigeria for all of your social media comments on all the action that's taken place this weekend. We'll see you again very, very shortly.
Powered by NairaBet. This is Football Live with Chris Baldwin.
And welcome back to Football Live. We will be back with our colleagues in Nigeria once again at around about 5:20 this evening. Before we go around the grounds, further goal news to tell you about in the Dutch Eredivisie.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
PSV are now leading Ajax by 4-2. That goal scored by Ismail Sabari did stand, in fact. That gave PSV the lead for the first time in the match, and they now have a 2-goal cushion into the 66th minute. They've added a fourth, courtesy of a second goal of the afternoon for Herving Lozano. So what a game that is this afternoon in the Dutch Eredivisie. PSV on their way to maintaining their 100% record. They've had a little bit of a scare this afternoon, having trounced Ajax on 2 occasions, but now leading by 4-2. Another latest score to give you in the Dutch Eredivisie. Volendam are leading Excelsior by 3-1. The final whistle has gone, of course, at the London Stadium. How did it all pan out? Did Everton clinch 3 very, very valuable points? West Ham against Everton here for the final time this afternoon is Jack Hesson.
Yes, full time at the London Stadium, and it did finish West Ham 0, Everton 1. You would have been forgiven beforehand for thinking, given that West Ham have won 6 in the last 8 home games in all competition, given that they've scored a goal in at least in all of their Premier League 14 home games this calendar year, that this would have been a difficult task for the Toffees, but they defended resolutely throughout the game. West Ham dominating the possession stats, but they couldn't make any real clear-cut chances throughout the entire game. Everton's defending, as I mentioned, was resolute, and then on 51 minutes, a poor clearance up the park by Kufal fell to Garner in the middle of the park, launched Everton into the attack. The ball went to Calvert-Lewin, some link-up play with Harrison. He takes the ball back, hits it on the turn, just on the edge of the area. A lovely driven shot into the bottom right-hand corner gave Everton the lead with a big chance of the game. From then, West Ham huffed and puffed, but they could not blow the Everton house down, and that's how the game ended. So a great victory for Everton this afternoon. That they make that 4 wins in 6 games in all competitions. They face Burnley in the EFL Cup in the midweek before going at home to Brighton next weekend. As for West Ham, they are struggling for form now, and definitely questions may start to be asked of David Moyes should this bad run of form continue. They play Arsenal in the League Cup in the midweek and are away to Brentford next weekend. So a great win for Everton as they continue to try and climb up the table. They're currently 15th place, subject to change given the other results at the moment, and West Ham still sitting 9th place in the table, but they need to try and pick up their form going into the next few games. Full time at the London Stadium. It's a well-deserved win for the Toffees. West Ham 0, Everton 1.
Thanks very much to our Football Live reporter Jack Hesson this afternoon. And as Jack said, a big win there for Everton, their third win of the season. It moves them on to 10 points and follows up their victories earlier on in the campaign at home to Bournemouth and Brentford as well. As for West Ham, it's now 4 matches without a win in all competitions. Let's head around the grounds once again now, because the second halves are well underway in the other 3 Premier League matches that are currently in progress. Let's head first of all to Anfield. Liverpool against Nottingham Forest. Liverpool taking in a very comfortable 2-0 lead to the break. Let's get an update now from Rich Bond.
Well, we're not quite underway yet. We had quite a lot of stoppage time in that first half at Anfield, about 5 minutes we did in the end. But it's half-time. It's Liverpool 2, Nottingham Forest 0, and goals in that first half from Jota and Nunez, the difference for the home side at the break, as Liverpool have been totally dominant in this game and could have been further ahead, with Forest keeper Matt Turner really keeping this side in the game with a few splendid saves from Szoboszlai and Nunez in particular. One really good save just before the break, one-handed, tipping the ball around the post. I feel that's a massive moment in this game, really, if Forest have to get back into it. Forest will have to change their approach, you feel, in the second half to get something from this game. You know, the approach Steve Cooper's done with 10 men behind the ball, it just isn't working. You can't see anything but Liverpool getting more goals if they continue as they are. So it's a question really, though, in this second half, is it damage limitation, though? We shall see, but I expect changes afoot. We're just about to start in about a couple of minutes, I would have thought. But at the moment, though, it's Liverpool 2, Nottingham Forest 0 at half-time.
So the second half just about to get underway. There's been a second goal at Villa Park.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
And Aston Villa have doubled their lead now at home to Luton Town. It's Aston Villa 2, Luton Town 0. So a great start to the second half then for Unai Emery's side. We will be crossing over to our reporter Duka Dodma very shortly for news of that second goal for Aston Villa, which I understand has been scored by Moussa Diaby. So Villa now 2 goals to the good at home to Luton Town. Let's head back to the Amex Stadium now for an update on the early salvos of the second half. Brighton against Fulham. Here's Kane Wiz.
Yeah, back underway at the Amex, and no changes for either side at the break. And frustratingly again for Fulham, Fulham are just standing off Brighton and allowing them to play. And you could see with the possession stats in the first half, Brighton have an 80% possession. And you can see now that Brighton are allowing and are being given time to go and play, because it's a wonderful turn from Lallana, who just gets on the edge of the box and draws a foul from Tim Ream to get a free kick. And Lewis Dunk, Ronaldo-esque style, takes the free kick and just hits the crossbar. I think there's a genuine worry really now from Fulham fans that they're not really going and getting in the faces of Brighton. But on the other side, you have got a centre forward in Evan Ferguson, who is the first teenager to score 10 plus goals in a single calendar year in the Premier League since. Who will leave that for you to try and guess for now. But 48 minutes in, it's Brighton 1, Fulham 0.
Further goal news in the Dutch Eredivisie.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
We did say there'd be further goals in this game, and they've all gone the way of PSV, because they are now 5-2 up at home to Ajax, and it's a hat-trick for Irving Lozano. It's now PSV 5, Ajax 2, with about 18 minutes or so remaining in the game there, although VAR are checking that 5th goal apparently for PSV, so we will confirm that with you very shortly. Let's get news of that second goal for Aston Villa at home to Luton Town as we rejoin Duka Dodma.
I tell you what, you won't see a better team goal all season. There must have been about 30, 40 passes in the build-up for that second goal for Aston Villa. In the end, it was a brilliant cross in from Lucas Digne, who found at the back post Leon Bailey, who didn't really know much about it. As the ball sort of hit the back of his head and then fell very kindly to Moussa Diaby, who finishes brilliantly. Obviously, Leon Bailey did just come on at half-time for Nicolo Zaniolo as Aston Villa looked to extend their lead, which they have done. And Luton still yet to register a shot in this game. Aston Villa 2, Luton 0.
So Villa well in command there, and Luton at the moment, as it stands, will be heading towards yet another defeat this season. Only the one victory, of course, for them so far. And they weren't done any favours yesterday, were they, with Bournemouth beating Burnley by 2-1 at the Vitality Stadium. So they're still 2 down as it stands at the moment at Villa Park. So you're up to date with all of the latest scores from the Premier League matches currently in progress. Let's just recap them for you once again. Aston Villa 2, Luton 0, as you just heard. Remains Brighton 1, Fulham 0. And, of course, at Anfield, where we've had a slight delay to the start of the second half due to the amount of stoppage time that was added on at the end of the first half. It remains Liverpool 2, Nottingham Forest 0. About 4 minutes or so, just over 4 minutes of the second half played there. We are about 90 minutes away or so from kickoff. It's the big Manchester derby, the 191st Manchester derby, to be precise, between Manchester United and Manchester City. And for the first time this afternoon, we're going to say a very good afternoon to our reporter, Kendall Rowan, with all the latest team news as we build up to that game.
Yes, good afternoon from a cloudy but dry Old Trafford. It's nice to be back. And as you said, I am reporting on one of the big games of the footballing calendar this afternoon, the 91st edition of the Manchester Derby. Both teams obviously coming in from Champions League wins midweek, and both have made changes from their midweek games. So the lineups are as followed. For the home side, Man United, Onana in goal, Dalot, Maguire, obviously fresh from his Champions League goal, Johnny Evans in for Varane, who is benched, and Lindelof, who completes the back four. Amrabat, McTominay, Bruno Fernandes and Eriksen, who replaces Antony, Marcus Rashford, and finally Højlund up front. Whilst visitors Man City have made several changes from midweek, and they line up with Ederson, Walker coming in from Akanji, who is suspended in the league after his red card against Brighton, Ruben Dias, Vardiol coming in for Ake, Stones replacing Rico Lewis, Rodri, Foden, Alvarez, Bernardo Silva, Jack Grealish, and the main man Erling Haaland up front. Manchester City will be looking to get on the top of the table at the moment with the 3 points today, and also Ten Hag will be seeking his third league win in a row and try to forget that up and down start to the season. But we're in for an exciting and interesting afternoon here at Old Trafford, and I'm really, really looking forward to sharing it with our Football Live listeners this afternoon.
Yeah, really big game, as you say, Kendall. The first Manchester derby of the season. In the corresponding fixture last season, as we know, of course, United winning on that occasion by 2-1. However, they have lost 5 of their last 6 meetings with City in all competitions. And just looking at the form of both sides, really, something about United at the moment, they don't look convincing, do they?
No, absolutely not. I think Ten Hag's kind of not got an identity yet with this team and with the signings that he has made. And it is a little bit of a struggle, really, because they are his signings. He knows most of these players very, very well. And similarly to last season, we did see sparks of it last season. I think a lot of the fans were really on board with what Ten Hag was trying to do. But yeah, they just haven't really kick-started as well to this season. So I don't know what's going to happen this afternoon. Obviously, they are at home, so they will be wanting that advantage. But Manchester City, the way that they play football, yes, they had a little bit of a wobble after international break, but they're such a difficult team to beat and such a difficult team to break down. So, yeah, really, really big afternoon for Manchester United today.
Yeah, really looking forward to this clash. Thanks very much to our reporter there, Kendall Rowan. They are kicking off in about 16 minutes' time also at Old Trafford. Ayo Alabi joined us, of course, from Old Trafford a little bit earlier on this afternoon. If you were listening, to give us all of the betting opportunities on offer for that match this afternoon, and his bet was for Manchester City to beat United by either 2-0 or 2-1. It was at a price of 8.500. Of course, that is subject to change. It might have changed now, but that was his bet for the match this afternoon. City to beat their rivals 2-0 or 2-1. And we will be across all the action as it unfolds this afternoon for you here on Football Live on Brila FM. I can tell you that in the Dutch Eredivisie, after that VAR check, the goal does stand. So PSV 5, Ajax 2 is the latest there, with a little over 15 minutes or so remaining in that game. And PSV will still be clear at the top of the table this evening with 10 wins from 10. as it stands at the moment. Quite astonishing start to their campaign in the Dutch Eredivisie. So you're up to date with all matters in that division. Aside from the fact that I just need to give you another latest score from that's from a match that's currently in progress. Volendam still leading Excelsior 3-1 into the 89th minute there. Of course, Feyenoord lost earlier on today, the defending champions, 2-1 at 20. In the Championship, Sheffield Wednesday have beaten Rotherham 2-0. A big win for Sheffield Wednesday, their first win of the season. And some other news coming through. Nigel Pearson has been sacked as the Bristol City manager, the former Leicester City and Watford manager. Of course, he's been sacked. They haven't been in the best form lately, Bristol City, but they've parted company with Nigel Pearson today. Other latest scores to give you in the German Bundesliga. It's Frankfurt 2, Dortmund 1, I believe, into first half time added on there. But Frankfurt now leading by 2-1. Dortmund having pulled a goal back in that game, as I say, as they approach half time. In the Scottish Premiership, this match kicked off at 4 o'clock this afternoon. Hearts have taken the lead at Ibrox with a goal scored there from Lawrence Shankland. So it's Rangers 0, Hearts 1. Elsewhere from around Europe in La Liga, a result from earlier on today, Betis beating Osasuna by 2-1. A very late goal there from Isco to deliver all 3 points to Osasuna in La Liga. In Italian Serie A, Monza still leading Udinese by 1-0 as they approach the hour mark in that game. And into French League 1, a result from earlier on today, an important one as well. PSG winning at Brest by 3-2. There, Kylian Mbappe with a couple of goals, the winner coming in the 89th minute to secure all 3 points for PSG. And these are all latest scores around about the hour mark for each of these games. Lille still leading Monaco by 2-0. So it looks as though Monaco will blow the opportunity to go back to the top of Ligue 1 this evening. It still remains goalless between Metz and Le Havre, and Montpellier are still leading Toulouse by 1-0. And finally, into the Belgian Jupiler Pro League, currently Westerlo 1, Royal Union 0. Westerlo have just taken the lead there. 17 minutes past 4 on this Sunday afternoon. You are listening to Football Live.
Predict 6 correct scores to win a life-changing 20 million naira. Naira 6 is the new and exciting free prediction game to play at www.nairabet.com. We challenge you to predict the scores of 6 pre-selected fixtures, usually from the Premier League. Guess all 6 correct and the prize is yours. The guaranteed jackpot will be up for grabs each week, with plenty of prizes for runners-up. The best thing about Naira 6 is that it is completely free to enter. All you need to do is log into nairabet.com and click the free tab. Select Naira 6 and enter your predictions. Wait for the final scores. So what are you waiting for? Available to registered players only. 1 entry per person. Must be over 18 to sign up. Full terms and conditions apply. Please gamble responsibly.
We can promise you fireworks next Saturday afternoon here on Brila FM when Football Live returns. 5 Premier League matches kick off at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, including the champions Manchester City as they take on Bournemouth at the Etihad. And then the late kick-off at 6:30, Newcastle United against Arsenal, a big game from St James's Park. We'll also keep a close eye on the big game in Italy in Serie A. Ademola Lookman in action as Atalanta take on Inter Milan. It promises to be an action-packed show next Saturday afternoon. The show starts at 10 to 4 in the afternoon. We'll see you then for the next instalment of Football Live on Brila FM.
Sports Radio 88.9 Brila FM.
Oh my word, what is going on here?
You are listening to Football Live on Brila FM 88.9 and 101.1 FM.
I don't know how to describe it anymore.
4 hours of football every Saturday and Sunday on Brila FM with Football Live.
So close, but yet so far.
Powered by NairaBet.
It's come out of nowhere, really.
The Premier League, La Liga, the Bundesliga, Serie A, the Saudi Pro League.
There's action everywhere you look.
Live and exclusive on Brila FM.
I want more goals. It's a show that's packed to the brim. This is madness. It's chaotic. Superb finish.
Take Brila anywhere, everywhere.
Yes, you can take Brila with you anywhere, everywhere.
The Brila app is available for free download on Google Play. It is also there on the Apple iTunes Store. Yes, on Google Play and the Apple iTunes Store.
Look out for the Brila football and microphone logo with the letters BRILA in green colour.
That is our authentic app. It gives you Brila FM, Brila.net, Brilasports.tv and all the extra betting tips, live score, plus our Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Google Plus and YouTube posts.
Sports fan, you can post your videos and eyewitness reports.
Brila, B-R-I-L-A. Available for download on Google Play and the Apple iTunes Store.
You are listening to Football Live on Brila FM.
Follow NairaBet on Twitter at NairaBet and on Facebook at NairaBet Online to take part in our infamous giveaways, and you too can win big. NairaBet, the home of sports betting and fast payments in Nigeria. Powered by NairaBet. This is Football Live with Chris Baldwin.
Indeed, welcome back to Football Live on this Sunday afternoon. Further goal news from Villa Park.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
Which way has it gone? Have Villa extended their lead, or have Luton Town managed to pull one back? Let's find out. Here's Duka Dobma.
Well, I did say to you earlier, Chris, that this could well be a thumping, and well, it is. Well, a brilliant ball over the top, I must say, and Moussa Diaby runs onto it, puts the ball across goal, and unfortunately Tom Lockyer couldn't put it anywhere else but the back of his own net. He couldn't do really anything about it. It just kind of hits him and just bobbles into the back of the net. But Aston Villa 3, Luton 0 here at Villa Park.
So Villa at the moment then sailing away towards all 3 points. Another 3 goals this afternoon for them at the moment. Of course, still plenty of time to still score further goals. But they have been scoring, as I say, for fun, haven't they, in recent games? That 4-1 win at Alkmaar in midweek as well. What an impressive victory that was in the Europa Conference League as well. And we also have further goal news coming in from the Amex.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
Well, Brighton have failed to beat Fulham in their 6 Premier League matches. Encounters in recent seasons, and Fulham are back on level terms there. It's now Brighton 1, Fulham 1. Joao Palhinha has equalised for Marco Silva's side. We'll hear all about that from our reporter, Kane Wiz, very, very shortly. But Fulham back on level terms at the Amex Stadium. Before we get to Kane and news about that equalising goal for Fulham, let's head back to Anfield now for an update on Liverpool against Nottingham Forest. And Liverpool still comfortably in control in that game at the moment, I would have thought. Rich Bond.
Yeah, very much so. We've got just over an hour gone on the clock. It's Liverpool 2, Nottingham Forest 0, and they're very much in control of this game. If, to a certain extent, really, the game has gone a bit flat. Liverpool made a couple of changes recently where they brought on Cody Gakpo and Harvey Elliott really just to shake things up as they look for that third goal, really, you think, which will just get him over the line. Forest have defended decent in the second half, but they haven't shown any intent in really trying to get back into this match. So it's one of those games now where I feel you need a moment really just to kind of change things a little bit. Harvey Elliott just had a good chance for Liverpool to really get another goal on the board. A nice cross from man of the match so far, Shobal Osai. He's been brilliant this afternoon. But yeah, it still remains Liverpool 2, Nottingham Forest 0, with 62 minutes on the clock.
Let's get news of that equalising goal then for Fulham at the Amex as we rejoin Kane Wears.
Yeah, Marco Silva was throwing his arms around only minutes ago and ended up making 3 substitutions. Those 3 subs of Pereira, of Muniz and of Wilson all having a part to play in the goal. And we mentioned earlier on about actually how Fulham just need to go and get in the face of Brighton and try and press them and pinch the ball. And that's what they do. It's a brilliant finish from Paulinho, who rifles it into the top corner on his 50th appearance at the club. But it comes from Brighton trying to play out from the back. Harry Wilson and Pereira pinching the ball in the middle of the park, turning over to Paulinho, who then fires it in top corner. 65 minutes in, Brighton 1, Fulham 1.
So a match that's very finely poised then at the Amex, 1 apiece there. Manchester United against Manchester City, kicking off in about 5 minutes' time or so as the atmosphere builds up towards that game. We've got all of the latest betting news coming up next from John Kane.
The latest in-play betting odds from NairaBet.
Yes, the latest odds from NairaBet. Of course, all prices are subject to change. 6-7 minutes gone in the English Premier League. Brighton 1, Fulham 1, as we just heard from Kane Wears. Brighton have gone up to 2.50. The draw is 2.10. And the Fulham away win is just gone down to 6.50. As for Villa Luton, well, it's more or less suspended, shall we say, for Villa. If you think Luton can come up and get a draw, it's 29.0. And for a big comeback from Luton, which is highly unlikely, I have to say, is 101.0. Likewise for Liverpool, same prices. Liverpool leading by 2 goals to none, 29.0. If you think Forest can score 2 goals, and if you think Forest can make a big comeback, it's 101.0. For the German Bundesliga, it's nearly half done between Eintracht Frankfurt and Borussia Dortmund. It's 2-1 up for Eintracht Frankfurt. Frankfurt are 1.85 for the win. The draw is 3.60 and just got down for Dortmund to 4.50. I've also got odds on the Nigerian games. We've got 3 of them going on at this stage. If you just bear me 1 second, it was just right in front of me here, Chris, honestly. Oh, here it is. And 27 minutes gone in Shooting Stars against Birmingham United. Shooting Stars are losing at home by 1-0. Shooting Stars are 1.80 for the win, so they're still favourites to win the game. The draw's gone down to 3.25, and an away win is 4.25 for Birmingham United. 50 minutes gone between Bielsa United and Kwara United. Bielsa United are leading after 50 minutes by 1-0. Bielsa are 1.20 for the win. The draw has gone down to 5.25, and Kwara United to win is 15.0. Abia Warriors and Harlan FC is suspended after 27 minutes. The bettings are suspended, shall I say, but Abia Warriors are leading by 1-0. Of course, all these prices are from NairaBet and they're all subject to change.
Thanks very much to John Kane there with all of the latest in-play betting opportunities available, courtesy, of course, of NairaBet, all subject to change. You're listening to Football Live here on Brila FM. We will be back around the grounds, the Premier League grounds, that is, again, very, very shortly. No further goals to tell you about. It remains Aston Villa 3, Luton 0, Brighton 1, Fulham 1, and Liverpool 2, Nottingham Forest 0. We are a couple of minutes or so away from kick-off between Manchester United and Manchester City. Plenty of action, of course, to look forward to next weekend on the show here as well, when Barry Swain on Saturday will be in the hot seat as we look ahead to Manchester City against Bournemouth, Brentford taking on West Ham in the London derby, Everton, of course, who got that priceless win at West Ham earlier on this afternoon. They're at home to Brighton, Burnley taking on Crystal Palace, Sheffield United against Wolves. Sheffield United, of course, in dire straits at the moment, still just a 1 point this season from their opening 10 matches, and in real danger of beating Derby County's lowest points tally record in the Premier League at this moment in time. And, of course, next weekend as well, the tea time kickoff, Newcastle at home to Arsenal. And we have coverage from the other top European leagues as well next Saturday with Barry as Atalanta play host to Inter, and Borussia Dortmund at home to Bayern Munich in the standout fixture in the Bundesliga. That's all taking place on Saturday, as I say, when Barry Swain will be your host here on Football Live. Just a reminder that about 4:20, this afternoon. We will be crossing back over to our colleagues in Nigeria for all of your social media comments on all of the action that's taken place this afternoon and this weekend, for that matter, in the Premier League. So many talking points. But right now, let's head back around the Premier League grounds once again. Our first port of call this time around is going to be to the Amex Stadium. Brighton, of course, at the moment level with Fulham. And I think there's been an opportunity for the visitors in that game for Kane Wears to tell us about. We have a few technical issues there. Getting to Kane, we'll try and iron those out. We'll get back to Kane in just a moment. Let's head now back to Anfield. Liverpool against Nottingham Forest. Richard Bond.
Yeah, well, we talked about moments earlier on about Forest really needed something in this game, and they've just had a really big moment, and it came for Nicholas Dominguez. It was a lovely bit of play by Morgan Gibbs-White down on the right-hand side. He whipped in a really nice ball, and it's just gone slightly over Dominguez. He's managed to get a bit of contact, getting it towards goal, but he fluffed the effort, really. You think if Awani was on the pitch at the moment, he would have put that one in the net. If he's fit, he's surely got to come on soon, I feel. It's 20 minutes to go here. They're looking to make a difference. Dominguez got subbed, Ryan Yates is on. So does that really tell you a little bit about Awani's fitness today? Not really sure what's happening here at the moment here with Forest, but Liverpool still looking pretty comfortable, but a bit of a scare there. It's Liverpool 2, Nottingham Forest 0 with about 20 minutes to go.
And I think Richard's hit the nail on the head there with Taiwo Awoniyi, who seems to have come back quite soon after his groin injury, with Steve Cooper actually reporting earlier in the week that he was progressing well and that he was hoping to return in a couple of weeks, but they certainly don't want to bring him back too soon. Nottingham Forest still trailing at Anfield then by 2-0. I can tell you the full-time whistle has blown at the Philips Stadion in Eindhoven, and PSV preserving their 100% record at the start of the season in the Dutch Eredivisie. They've beaten Ajax by 5-2. Ajax, of course, you'll remember, had taken the lead twice in that game, but PSV making it 10 wins from 10. Irving Lozano with a hat-trick this afternoon for PSV, running out 5-2 winners. Right, let's just see if we can hook up once again now with Kane Wears at the Amex Stadium. Brighton against Fulham.
Yeah, Fulham are now really getting back into this, and Brighton are wobbling. And it's the two Nigerian internationals that link up well to create a really good opportunity for Fulham. It's Calvin Bassey, who's really improved since Monday's game against Spurs, where he just steps into midfield with the ball and looks to drive, slides in Alex Iwobi, and then makes a third man run into the box. Iwobi just chips the ball in, and Calvin Bassey gets up well for a great header, and then an equal save by Jason Steele. Really, Brighton are now struggling to keep a hold of the ball, and Fulham are getting into phase. But 73 minutes in, it's Brighton 1, Fulham 1.
They have kicked off at Old Trafford. Manchester United against Manchester City. A couple of minutes played. It remains goalless there. We'll be crossing over to Football Live reporter Kendall Rowan for our first update there very shortly, but not before we've checked back in with Duka Dobmer, who's covering all the action unfolding at Villa Park. Aston Villa against Luton Town, and at the moment, Duka, Aston Villa very clearly heading towards yet another clinical victory this season.
Yeah, it's pretty plain sailing here for Aston Villa at the minute. They're just keeping hold of the ball there. And Luton just seem happy that Aston Villa are keeping hold of the ball. Luton aren't really doing anything to press. They've had a couple of good opportunities, especially with set pieces, to get the ball in dangerous areas and actually have a shot on target in this game. But every single set piece they have, it just goes to waste. And Aston Villa almost had a really good opportunity to counter, and really could have been 4-0 up here. But as it stands, it's Aston Villa 3, Luton Town 0.
A couple of other latest scores to give you from around Europe. Rayo Vallecano 0, Real Sociedad 0 into the 18th minute there in that La Liga encounter. And in Italian Serie A, Udinese back on level terms at Monza. It's now Monza 1, Udinese 1. The visitors equalising there through Lorenzo Luca to make it 1 apiece in that game. And in French Ligue 1, Lille 2, Monaco 0, the latest there. Metz and Le Havre still battling out a goalless game at the moment. And Montpellier are now leading at home to Toulouse by 3-0, with about 12 minutes or so remaining in each of those matches. A couple of other fixtures taking place in Ligue 1 a little bit later on this afternoon in a 5:05 kick-off. Rennes at home to Strasbourg. And the match taking place this evening, kicking off at 8:45, Marseille at home to Lyon. Of course, Monaco missing out on the opportunity to go back to the top of the table unless they can somehow turn it around at Lille this afternoon. They are trailing 2-0, as I mentioned, but they are 2 points adrift of Nice, who are currently leading Ligue 1 at the moment, a point clear of PSG, who, of course, won 3-2 at Brest this afternoon with a last-minute goal from Kylian Mbappe, sealing the 3 points for PSG. Right, let's head back to Old Trafford now and get an update on the early stages of play. Manchester United against Manchester City as we rejoin Kendall Rowan.
Yes, so we have 4 minutes gone into the first half, and it is Manchester United 0, Man City 0. But I think it would have shocked everybody watching this game at the moment. Manchester United came right out of the blocks, just immediately started attacking, pressing, pushing Man City really, really high. Lindelof received a great ball from Dalot, but unfortunately the cross just hit the top of the net. And then just minutes after that, Scott McTominay avoided several challenges in the middle of the park from the Manchester City players and tried a low shot, but just went straight into Edison's hands. But I think Manchester United will be really happy with how they've started here. Manchester City just getting a little bit more possession now, getting a little bit more hold into the game, but it's been a really good 5 minutes in the opening half so far. It is Manchester United 0, Man City 0.
So still goalless then at Old Trafford. Any further developments in that game, you will hear them first and foremost here on Football Live on Brila FM. Of course, they've met 3 times last season, these two sides, didn't they? Most notably, of course, in the FA Cup final back in June when City won by 2-1. Ilkay Gundogan scoring both City goals on that occasion, of course, at Wembley, including an opening goal, I seem to remember, in the very first minute. In the corresponding fixture, of course, last season, United winning by 2-1. And then in the reverse fixture last season, City with that incredible 6-3 win at home to their rivals back in October. A couple of hat-tricks you'll remember on that occasion as well for Erling Haaland and Phil Foden as well. But they played just over 6 minutes or so at Old Trafford, and it's still goalless. Manchester United 0, Manchester City 0. Listening to Football Live here on Brila FM. Let's just recap some of the latest scores for you. Once again in the Nigerian Premier League, which of course kicked off a little bit earlier on this afternoon. Abia Warriors 1, Heartland 0 is the latest there. Bayelsa United 1, Kawara 1. It's Casino United 0, Sunshine Stars 1, Rivers United 0, Lobby Stars 0, and Shooting Stars 0, Doma United 1 in that game. Kicking off at 6 o'clock this evening in the Nigerian Premier League, Sporting Lagos at home to Niger. So you're up to date with all matters in the Nigerian Premier League. Meanwhile, in the English Premier League, there's another goal at Anfield.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
Mo Salah has added a third for Liverpool. They now lead Nottingham Forest by 3-0. Richard Bond will be describing that for us in his inimitable fashion, no doubt, very shortly here on Football Live. But Liverpool at the moment now sailing towards all 3 points with about 13 minutes or so remaining. Liverpool 3, Nottingham Forest 0. Your latest there from Anfield. Let's just continue our review of all the action that took place yesterday and over the course of the weekend in the Premier League as well. Of course, Arsenal dispatching Sheffield United quite comfortably by 5-0 at the Emirates. Eddie Nketiah, the man on the spot, scoring his first ever Premier League hat-trick as Arsenal kept their unbeaten record intact with that demolition of the Blades to move them into second spot, 2 points adrift of North London rivals Tottenham. Sheffield United, of course, still just 1 point from their opening 10 matches, and they've made the worst start by any side to a Premier League season. John Kane, going to bring you back in. Big win for Arsenal, but you wouldn't have expected anything less, really.
No, absolutely. I think everyone was expecting the 3 points. I think probably needed a miracle with all respect to Sheffield United. The way they've been playing this season has been the best, hasn't it? And that 1 point, it probably says it all, doesn't it, so far, which is the only point they got this season. But for Arsenal, it was a 5-star performance, wasn't it? And a beautiful hat-trick by Nketiah. People can say it's only Sheffield United, but in the day, all hat-tricks count in the Premier League. Doesn't matter who you play against. When you score a hat-trick, it's a beautiful feeling for that player. And Arsenal are one of 2 teams in the Premier League who haven't lost yet, and that was them. And then also other rivals, Tottenham, who are top of the league. So they're actually occupying at this stage first and second. And but Arsenal, they needed that win. They got it. They deserve it. And I believe you've got a goal for us as well, Chris.
Yep, further goal news to tell you about from Villa Park.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
And is the comeback on? Because Luton Town have pulled one back. It's now Aston Villa 3, Luton Town 1. Details of the goal scorer coming to you very, very shortly. But Luton grabbing a goal with about a little under 8 minutes or so remaining in that game at Villa Park, but they still trail by 3-1. We were just talking about Arsenal's victory at home to Sheffield United yesterday, 5-0. Before we go around the grounds once again, let's just hear now from Eddie Nketiah, the delighted Gunners striker, following his first ever Premier League hat-trick for Arsenal.
Probably the third, to be fair. Yeah, I think to top it off with the hat-trick was really nice, and it was a good shot from outside the box.
And didn't fancy the fourth because I saw you giving the ball to him.
I was on it. I was going to take it, but Fabio, it was a special moment for him. I think he's expecting a baby, and he won the penalty, so he asked if he could take it. I said, of course, it's a team sport. I've got 3, so yeah. Just stay patient. In games like this where it's tight and it's low, it's about staying patient, staying in the right areas, arriving in the right areas, and my teammates found me today, and I was able to finish my chances.
It's the Gunners striker Eddie Nketiah on his hat-trick yesterday at home to Sheffield United in Arsenal's 5-0 demolition of the Blades. Let's go around the grounds once again now. First of all, let's get news of that third Liverpool goal at Anfield against Nottingham Forest. Here's Rich Bond.
Well, dear, oh dear, Nottingham Forest, they've absolutely messed this one up. Matt Turner, he's had such a great game today. Made a couple of really good saves, but I tell you what, it's a long punt forward from Shobolo's side, and it's just bounced just right in front of him. He's looked to clear it, he missed it, and it's gone over his head. In has come Mo Salah, who's just run round and just tapped into an empty net. I can't believe what I'm saying, to be honest. Forest, it just sums up their day, really. They've really offered nothing in this game, and Liverpool very, very, very dominant. So they take a 3-0 lead. Sure, that's game, set, and match now, and on has come Endo now just to protect the midfield for Nunez, and Salah maybe looking for more. He's gone up front. So it's Liverpool 3, Nottingham Forest 0 with 10 minutes to go.
Luton Town have reduced the deficit at Villa Park against Aston Villa. Let's hear all about their goal now from Duka Dubba.
I tell you what, this goal's come out of completely nothing. It's an own goal from Emi Martinez. The ball's come in. I couldn't really see which one to play with. I think it might have been Andros Townsend who's come off the bench. He's whipped the ball in. There's a bit of pressure on Ezri Konsa, but he decides just to try and head it back to the goalkeeper. Instead, he heads it over the goalkeeper, hits the bar, and bounces off Martinez and goes in. It is one of the most bizarre goals you'll see all season. And somehow it's given Luton a lifeline in this game, which they've completely not deserved at all. And this goal just come out of nothing. But it's Aston Villa 3, Luton Town 1.
And Duka, just briefly, whilst you're there, just a word on Andros Townsend, because an interesting signing from the Hatters. Back in the Premier League following a 19-month absence after signing that short-term contract with the club a couple of weeks ago. I think it runs until January. Plenty of experience, of course, with the experience, of course, that he's had with the likes of Tottenham, Newcastle, Palace, Everton as well. What do you think he'll bring to the table?
Well, I think you've hit the nail on the head there, Chris. His experience in the Premier League, exactly, because most of these players within the Luton squad lack that Premier League experience, lack what it takes to maybe stay up in the division. But the likes of Andros Townsend and Ross Barkley, who'd have brought in as free agents, could well help them stay up, especially with the experience that they both have.
Thanks very much to Duka Dogma there. So Aston Villa 3, Luton Town 1, the latest score from Villa Park as we head back to the south coast of England now. Brighton against Fulham, a match that's very nicely poised. The last time we were with Kane Wears.
Yeah, you wouldn't be surprised if there's a winner in this game now. And Brighton and Fulham are both doing well to try and go for that winner there. But more so Fulham. Fulham in this second half have really gone to Brighton's face and stopped them playing and have some good ball carriers. Even the likes of the fullbacks in Robinson, Castagna, forward players like Willian, Iwobi, Paulinho, who can pick the ball up and drive and are creating chances with both Iwobi and Willian cutting in from either wing and bending the shots wide and causing Jason Steele some problems. But 85 minutes played, still Brighton 1, Fulham 1.
As we head back to Old Trafford now, Manchester United against Manchester City in the big derby. Manchester United had made a decent start to that game the last time we were with Kendall Rowan.
Yes, so it's been a really, really good opening 15 minutes here today at Old Trafford. Manchester United really in control, playing some really, really good football, stringing some fantastic passes together. Manchester City just losing it a little bit in the middle of the park. Phil Foden did just lose it a couple of minutes ago as well, but they also did have a really, really good chance from the same man, from Phil Foden as well, about 5 minutes or so ago. So it's end-to-end stuff here. Both teams showing some really, really good system team football. It's absolutely really brilliant to watch. But at the moment, we're 40 minutes gone into the first half, and it's still Manchester United 0, Manchester City 0.
Remains goalless then at Old Trafford. Just to recap the other three latest scores for you in the Premier League as we approach full time: Aston Villa 3, Luton 1, Brighton 1, Fulham 1, and Liverpool 3, Nottingham Forest 0. We'll be back around the Premier League grounds very, very shortly. Let's just continue our review of the weekend's action in the Premier League from yesterday. Bournemouth relieving the pressure, of course, on under fire boss Anthony Iraola with that 2-1 win at home to Burnley to secure their first win of the campaign this season. Phil Billing looping that 40-yard effort to hand all 3 points to the Cherries, lifting them out of the bottom three in the process. Great win for Bournemouth, John. But as for Burnley, their problem's still mounting.
They are, aren't they? And I think quite a lot of people were expecting a lot from Vincent Kompany, the way they were playing football in the Championship. And of course, he was at Anderlecht and done quite well as well, to be fair to Vincent Kompany. But at the moment, they're finding life really, really difficult, especially when you compare it with the days of Sean Dyche was in charge. At the time, it's a different kind of style of Burnley. They do play beautiful football, I have to give them that. But at the end of the day, that doesn't get you anywhere, doesn't it? And 4 points out of the first 10 games is not good enough for Burnley. As for Bournemouth, well, that win was very, very important. It took them just out the relegation zone by 1 point above Luton with 6 points, of course, only for the time being. But I tell you what, it's just a bit of a relief and a bit of a brush air, isn't it? And for Bournemouth, I think it was Bournemouth's first win of the season as well, and they really, really needed that, didn't they? And to climb up the table a bit and just take a bit of confidence for the players. And of course, the goal from Phil Dilling was absolutely beautiful goal, wasn't it? It was just inside the halfway line, and he just saw the James Trafford off his line, and there was a beautiful chip above, which is very similar to the Harry Kane's goal, but it was just Kane's was a bit further out for Bayern Munich yesterday. But nevertheless, it was a very beautiful goal for Philip.
Certainly was, yeah. Beautiful technique. He knew exactly what he was doing. He executed it superbly. And finally, John, Wolves and Newcastle yesterday at Molineux. Hwang scoring his sixth goal of the season to earn a share of the spoils for Wolves in that what was really a half-fought draw with Newcastle. Callum Wilson grabbing a brace for the Magpies in the process as well to leave them in sixth place in the Premier League table. Wolves have certainly been battling this season, and you suspect where they are on the table at the moment, 12th as it stands, they should be okay this season because there's plenty of other sides that are going to struggle, and I don't think it appears that they will be one of them.
No, absolutely not. I think if you look at the table, you're probably going to guess really it's going to be one out of the 5 teams, isn't it? At the moment, Forest, Bournemouth, Luton, Burnley and Sheffield United at this stage, as it stands, with all these teams performing the way they do now. Wolves, I think they're going to be a bit safe. Newcastle, very much more safe for that matter. They're playing for European football again. It was a very, very exciting football yesterday between two teams. We've noticed something under Gary O'Neill from previous previous managers they had is they love to play football, and Pedro Neto, absolutely brilliant player, brilliant top-class player. Of course, his injuries doesn't help, and he got injured literally about 15-20 minutes with a hamstring injury, so he might be off again for a few weeks, which was a big blow for Wolverhampton Wanderers, because he was a masterclass so far this season. He's one of the top players. I think he's got the most assists this season in the Premier League. Newcastle, very beautiful football as well. They sort of pulled off the gas a bit yesterday, didn't they, against Wolverhampton Wanderers, but they are playing away from home. 2 beautiful goals, and of course Hwang Chang, that incident with the penalty. I have to admit, I think so many times I've seen that penalty, and I'm sure Kendall will kill me for this, but every time I've seen that incident, I just don't think it was a penalty for Newcastle. I think Hwang Chang was trying to clear it, and it's just more or less stops before I think it's Fabian Schär who actually falls down on the ground inside the penalty area. But the penalty in the end there was given. It was a long delay, wasn't it, with the VAR? But nevertheless, I think the 2-2 draw was probably the right decision, the right scoreline.
Yeah, as you say, a big talking point. Some referees would give it, and some wouldn't, quite clearly. But yeah, battling hard-fought draw between those two sides yesterday afternoon. Many thanks to John Kane there as we reviewed all the action that took place in the Premier League yesterday. Let's refocus back on the action that's taking place this afternoon, because we are heading towards the full times in 3 of those matches. Let's head back to the Amex now. Brighton against Fulham. Either of these sides coming close to getting a winner in this game. Kane Wears.
Massive opportunity for Brighton to get a winner. And Ansu Fati wins a corner for Brighton. And it's whipped in by Billy Gilmore. And Webster just peels off at the back post and gets a really good head on it. And the header's beat the goalkeeper and it's just looping in. But Anthony Robinson, quite brilliantly, is able to clear the ball off the line and back out for a corner. And just as we're just looking now, the fourth officials put up that there's 9 minutes of added time for the absolute delight of everyone in the Amex here, with chance of attack. So 9 minutes left. Brighton 1, Fulham 1.
So plenty of time for either of those guys to score a winning goal this afternoon at the Amex. Let's cross back to Anfield now. Liverpool against Nottingham Forest. Here's Richard Bond.
Well, Forest has suddenly woken up way too late in the game, but it was a few minutes to go. But Anthony Elanga's hit the crossbar for them, and lovely bit of play down on the right-hand side. It was substitute Ryan Yates who found him. Beautiful fizzing cross right into the box, picking out Elanga. He's taken a touch and he's just smashed a volley from 8 yards. It's just smashed against the crossbar, gone over the top of the bar. And then minutes later, then they've had another chance, and it's Elanga again. Again, a lovely sweeping move. This time, and there was Elanga on the end of it, and he's just kind of haven't quite caught his shot properly on the volley, and it's just sizzled over the bar. But, you know, why weren't they doing this about 30 minutes ago? They would have been right back in this match. You have to question that. But Liverpool very comfortable in this match, and they look like they're getting the 3 points today. It's Liverpool 3, Nottingham Forest 0, just entering stoppage time.
Liverpool heading towards 3 points. So too are Aston Villa as we reach stoppage time at Villa Park. Aston Villa against Luton Town. Here's Duka Dogma.
Yeah, no, Luton had a fantastic chance to make it an interesting finale here. It was Ross Barkley who nicked the ball off Leander Dendoncker on the edge of the area, and I couldn't quite see who had the shot in the end, but it was blocked and went out for a corner. And then Ross Barkley again. It was a brilliant ball whipped in, and it kind of just pinballed around the area, and Ross Barkley brought it down, but his shot just sort of p-rolled into the hands of Emi Martinez, and as it stands, it's still Aston Villa 3, Luton 1. Final few moments here at Villa Park.
Brilliant chance for Fulham to possibly win the game at the Amex Stadium. Here's Kane Wears.
Massive opportunity for Fulham to win it, and it's Harry Wilson who skips down the left and squares the ball to Pereira. His effort's blocked, but actually he then wins the second ball and is able to get a second bite at it, going 1v1 with Jason Steele. Jason Steele makes a great save, and again it bounces out to Wilson, and he puts it wide. 94 minutes, Brighton 1, Fulham 1.
And we'll be back around the Premier League grounds very shortly. I can tell you they've reached the midway point of the first half at Old Trafford. It's still goalless. Manchester United 0, Manchester City 0. Let's just recap a few other latest scores for you. It's half-time at Ibrox. Rangers 0, Hearts 1 as they go into the interval there in the Scottish Premiership. In the Dutch Eredivisie, into the 9th minute, AZ Alkmaar against Nijmegen. Currently goalless there in that game. Of course, earlier on today, PSV beating Ajax by 5-2 in an incredible match. In the Bundesliga, Dortmund are back on level terms at home to away to Frankfurt. Rather, it's now Frankfurt 2, Dortmund 2, and it is Yusufa Moukoko who has equalised there for Dortmund to make it 2 apiece in that game. Rayo Vallecano have just taken the lead at home to Real Sociedad, leading by 1-0. Abdul Mumin with the opening goal there, the Ghanaian striking there for Rayo Vallecano. In Italian Serie A, deep into stoppage time at the end of the match between Monza and Udinese, where it remains Monza 1, Udinese 1. Further goal news to tell you about from Anfield.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
Subject to a VAR check, though, I believe. Liverpool have scored a fourth, but that has gone to VAR, possibly an offside in the build-up, we're hearing. In fact, it's been disallowed. So it is Liverpool 3, Nottingham Forest 0. That's how it remains. Penalty news coming in from Old Trafford. Manchester City have a penalty at Manchester United. It went to VAR, and the penalty has been awarded. So we will update you with everything that's happening there from Old Trafford. But City have themselves a penalty kick in the 24th minute. As I say, we will update you with what develops there from Old Trafford. But an excellent opportunity, it would appear, for Manchester City to take the lead in that game. And just as soon as we have news, we will bring it to you here on Football Live. Before we get news of that, let's just give you some latest scores, a couple of latest scores from the Nigerian Premier League, a couple of half-time scores. Abia Warriors 1, Heartland 0, Rivers United 1, Lobby Stars 0, and Shooting Stars 1, Doma United 1. They are all half-time scores for you. Goal news from Old Trafford.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
Erling Haaland converts from the penalty spot to score his 10th Premier League goal of the season. And it's Manchester United 0, Manchester City 1 now at Old Trafford. Further details of that to follow. First of all, though, let's head back to Rich Bond, who's covering, of course, Liverpool against Nottingham Forest at Anfield for news of that disallowed goal. Rich.
Yes, well, it was a lovely little move, sweeping move that Liverpool had on the counter-attack as far as they were trying to get something out of the game. And Harvey Elliott has been really good since he's come on in this second half. Desperate to get on the score sheet himself, he went close, but he got down on the left-hand side, he crossed the ball in, and it's gone to Cody Gakpo, and he's been adjudged to just be slightly ahead of his marker when he's gone in. He's put it into the back of the net, but VAR very quick to disallow that one. But yeah, nearly come to the end of this one now, but it's Liverpool 3, Nottingham Forest 0.
And we'll be getting a full-time report from Rich Bond on that game just as soon as the final whistle blows. Let's cross back to Old Trafford now for news of that opening goal for Manchester City in the big derby. Here's Kendall Rowan.
Yes, it is Manchester City 1 at the moment. A fantastic penalty from Erling Haaland, which all came from Højlund holding Rodri back as the corner came in. He held it back. It was definitely a foul. I know a couple of Manchester United fans will be arguing about it. We have seen inconsistency in the league this season with the officials, but for me, it was a definite penalty, and it was absolutely fantastic. Just slotted in the bottom left corner for Erling Haaland, and at the moment we are seeing some Manchester City dominance, but we are 27 minutes gone into the first half at Old Trafford this afternoon, and it is Manchester United 0, Manchester City 1.
So advantage then to Manchester City. The final whistle has blown at the Amex Stadium. Did it all end honours even in that game? Brighton against Fulham. Here's Kane Wears.
Yeah, full time and 1-1 here, and Brighton started off in the first half outstanding, having 80% possession. The classy finish from Ferguson gave Brighton the lead in that first half, being the first teenager to score more than 10 goals since Wayne Rooney. And then in the second half, Fulham have came out the blocks flying and really got into Brighton's face and stopped them playing. And Paulinho has really done well and scored an absolute stunner to equalise the game for Fulham. But Brighton should have done more with the possession and the chances they've had, and they'll certainly be disappointed with that. In the final 10 minutes, they would opened up so much where there could have been chances for either team. But at the Amex, it's full time. It's Brighton 1, Fulham 1.
So Brighton's record against Fulham in that they've failed to beaten them now in the last 7 Premier League meetings. It continues. Fulham with a great record against the Seagulls as it all ends square at the Amex Stadium. Let's head back to Anfield now for a full-time report because the final whistle has gone. Liverpool against Nottingham Forest. Here's Rich Bond.
Yeah, it's all finished here at Anfield. It's Liverpool 3, Nottingham Forest 0. First off strikes from Diego Jota and Darwin Nunez give the home side the lead at half-time. Matt Turner had made the visitors with a few splendid saves really to keep them in the game, but he'd be caught out in the second half, making a horrendous error to let in the third goal for Mo Salah. Liverpool very comfortable in this one. Forest really at the races all afternoon, didn't really know how to deal with their opposition, lacking a focal point up front. It really cost them dear on the day. For Forest now, they move on and they'll be looking for easier days. Liverpool, with 4 games in 12 days, perhaps maybe went off the pace in the second half to kind of preserve some energy and made a few substitutions. But it's the home side that got the win today. It's Liverpool 3, Nottingham Forest 0.
Yeah, so a very comfortable victory in the end for Liverpool. Many thanks to our reporter Richard Bond this afternoon at Anfield. And just to wrap up the full-time scores from this afternoon's action in the Premier League, let's cross over now to the final time this afternoon to Duca Dogma at Villa Park. Aston Villa against Luton Town, and I believe, Duca, that all 3 points ended up going the way of Unai Emery's side at the end.
Yeah, it was a fairly comfortable victory for Aston Villa in the end, finishing 3-1. They had themselves to blame for conceding the goal. Obviously, a very bizarre own goal from Emi Martinez, which all came from an Ezri concert backheader, so to speak. But Aston Villa created so many chances throughout that game. It could have easily scored 5 or 6 if they were really on their day today. I don't think it was Aston Villa's greatest performance, but they managed to get the job done, scoring 3 goals at home. I don't think anyone can complain, and certainly not Unai Emery. Obviously, a lot of work still to be done for Luton, though. If they do want to keep in the Premier League, they do now fall into the relegation zone, which is really not where they want to be at this point in the season. But we'll see how they progress throughout the next coming weeks. So as it finished here at Villa Park, it was Aston Villa 3, Luton Town 1.
Many thanks there to Duca Dogma covering that match for us this afternoon here on Football Live. Goal news to tell you about in the Bundesliga.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
We've had plenty of goals around this afternoon, haven't we? Frankfurt were 2-0 up at home to Dortmund, who brought themselves level to make it 2 apiece. But Frankfurt are back in front again now. The Algerian Fares Shabi has scored a 3rd goal to make it Frankfurt 3, Dortmund 2 in the Bundesliga. So a cracking game there. They're into the 69th minute in that game. Other latest scores to give you. Approaching half-time in La Liga, where it's Rayo Vallecano 1, Real Sociedad 1. A result from earlier on today, Betis 2, Osasuna 1. In Italian Serie A, it ended all square between Monza and Udinese, 1 apiece there. Into French League 1, these are all final scores. The result from the early kickoff, Brest 2, Paris Saint-Germain 3, Lille 2, Monaco 0. Monaco blowing the opportunity to go back to the summit of League 1 this evening. Metz 0, Le Havre 0, and Montpellier 3, Toulouse 0. They are all final scores. Into the Belgian Jupiler Pro League, they've just restarted in the match between Westerlo and Royal Union. It's 1 apiece in that game there. And in the Nigerian Premier League, let's just run through all of these halftime scores for you. Abia Warriors 1, Heartland 0, Bayelsa United 2, Guawara 1, Katsina United 1, Sunshine Stars 2, Rivers United 1, Lobby Stars 0, Shooting Stars 1, Doma United 1. They are all half-time scores for you here on Football Live. In about 15 minutes' time or so, we'll be crossing over to FJ and the crew in Nigeria for all of your social media comments to discuss, obviously, all the events that have unfolded in front of our eyes this weekend in the Premier League and beyond as well. But right now, let's head back to Old Trafford. Manchester United against Manchester City. City, of course, 1-up. Erling Haaland converting from the penalty spot. What sort of response have we got from Manchester United here, Kendall Rowan?
Yes, we've still got some really end-to-end stuff in the first 30 minutes of this game at Old Trafford this afternoon. Manchester United just had a really good chance there with Højlund, obviously the man that gave away the penalty. Did really well to intercept a misplaced pass from City, which I have seen a few of those this afternoon, and that's surprising from a City side who are so well known for their passing in football and how they play football. But they have had a few misplaced ones, and Højlund just took advantage of one of those, tried to slide it across goal to McTominay, but unfortunately they could not find the net. But they are playing really good stuff this afternoon, and unfortunately it is just the penalty that has them behind at the moment. But we are 33 minutes into the first half at Old Trafford this afternoon, and it is still Manchester United 0, Manchester City 1.
So, just over 10 minutes or so of the first half remaining there at Old Trafford in the first Manchester derby of the season. Erling Haaland with his 10th Premier League goal of the season. You know, it's amazing how some people not so much write Haaland off sometimes, but because he doesn't score in every game, there seems to be a barrage of criticism. Maybe not a barrage, but there's certainly sort of some people start piping up and are very critical of him, especially with the Champions League. Prior to that victory against Young Boys in midweek, of course, where they won 3-1, he hadn't scored in 6 Champions League matches, but he's a sort of player you never write him off at all. And of course, his goal is the difference between the two sides at the moment. Manchester United currently 13.00 with NairaBet to win that encounter and turn it around. That price, of course, is subject to change. Currently 13.00 to win this afternoon. Manchester United live in play betting odds there, but that is subject to change, as I say. Let's give you some results from earlier on today from around Europe and also from the UK as well in the Championship. Sheffield Wednesday beat Rotherham in the South Yorkshire derby earlier on this afternoon by 2-0. A couple of goals there for Michael Smith to present Sheffield Wednesday with their very first win of the season, although they remain rooted to the foot of the Championship table. In the Scottish Premiership, a result from earlier on today: Kilmarnock 2, Aberdeen 0, Rangers 0, Hearts 1. Still at half-time there at the moment. That result for Kilmarnock in beating Aberdeen this afternoon means, as it stands, they remain in 5th place by virtue of the fact that Hearts are currently a goal to the good at Rangers. In the Dutch Eredivisie, these are all final scores. Twente 2, Feyenoord 1. Great win that for Twente. Volendam beating Excelsior by 3-1. And of course, PSV beating Ajax by 5-2. A hat-trick there for Irving Lozano. They trailed on 2 occasions in that game, did PSV, but they turned it around completely in the end and won by 5-2 to maintain their 100% record at the top of the Dutch Eredivisie table. As for Ajax, of course, who were beaten by Brighton in the Europa League on Thursday night and seem to be going out of that competition. As it stands, they are now rooted to the foot of the table. They have a couple of games in hand, but with only 1 win this season, Ajax are propping up the whole of the Dutch Eredivisie table at the moment, which is quite remarkable, isn't it, given the historical success of the club. It's a side that's won 4 consecutive Eredivisie titles in recent seasons. They've won 36 titles in all over the last few decades, and a team that's rarely finished outside of the top 3 in their history. They've made won major honours as well, of course, and produced the talents of players such as Johan Cruyff and Dennis Bergkamp, Marco van Basten, to name just 3. But at the moment, they're having the most dreadful season, the worst season in their history. A few other latest scores to give you in the German Bundesliga. Frankfurt leading Dortmund by 3-2 with just over 15 minutes remaining there. Leverkusen kick off against Freiburg in a little over 20 minutes' time. It's an opportunity for Leverkusen to go back to the pinnacle of the Bundesliga this evening if they can clinch all 3 points. Into Spanish La Liga, a result from earlier on today, Betis 2, Osasuna 1. It's half-time between Rayo Vallecano and Real Sociedad, 1 apiece there at the interval. In Italian Serie A, Cagliari 4, Frosinone 3, a result from the early kickoff today. An incredible win that for Cagliari, who scored both of their goals, to win that game. Their last 2 goals came in the 94th and 96th minute to clinch all 3 points there. Monza 1, Udinese 1, also a final score. A couple of great matches to look forward to this evening in the top flight of Italian football, with Inter at home to AS Roma. Romelu Lukaku returning to his former club. I'm sure he'll get a very warm welcome there this afternoon. He's been in good form this season, hasn't he? Since he's moved from Inter in August, he scored, I think, 5 goals this season? I think possibly 8 in all competitions. Napoli at home to Milan in an 8:45 kickoff. Into French League 1, these are all final scores. Brest 2, PSG 3, Lille 2, Monaco 0, Metz 0, Le Havre 0, and Montpellier 3, Toulouse 0. It's currently Rennes 0, Strasbourg 0 into the 5th minute of that game. And finally, in the Belgian Jupiler Pro League, Club Brugge 2, Antwerp 1, and Westerlo 1. That's the final score, by the way. Westerlo 1, Royal Union 1 is the latest score into the 7th minute of that game there. Let's head back to Old Trafford now for an update on the Manchester derby. United against City. Are United coming any closer to getting back on level terms in that game? Kendall Rowan.
Yes, we're about 5 minutes away from obviously normal time without any extra added time in the first half, of which there will be because of the VAR check. It was quite lengthy, but it is still Manchester United 0, Manchester City 1. Manchester City have had a few set pieces in quick succession. Julian Alvarez been pretty much brilliant on all of them. Onana has just had to pull off a really, really glorious save to deny Julian Alvarez from a free kick on the edge of the box. So they are just pressuring now. They're really getting control of this game, Manchester City, which is, to be fair, how the game started. Manchester United started really, really well, but Manchester City, again, they're just in control. They're just brilliant in the way that they play the ball, especially when they're inviting pressure and they are inviting the press high. They're just really, really good. They have got another corner now as well. So as I say, it's about 5 or 6 set pieces in a row here at Old Trafford this afternoon for Manchester City, and it'll be Julian Alvarez again on the corner. So I don't know if they're going to score another one this half, because the Manchester United defence have been absolutely brilliant. Harry Maguire and Dalot in specifics, and Johnny Evans just gave away a really clumsy foul on the edge of the box for that earlier save by Onana. But at the moment, as I say, we're just coming up to the end of the first half here at Old Trafford this afternoon, and it is Manchester United 0, Manchester City 1.
This is Football Live here on Brila FM. We've got all the latest betting news, in-play betting news, that is, from John Kane next.
The latest in-play betting odds from NairaBet.
Yes, the latest odds from NairaBet. Of course, all these prices are subject to change. Obviously, Man United are losing at home by 1-0 to Manchester City. I'll give you the odds on that for a second, but I'm just going to give you a couple of selective odds from that game. Haaland, if you think Haaland's going to score next, he's 3.80. He's a firm favourite for that, and quite understandably why. Now, if you think he's going to score a hat-trick, Haaland at the moment is 7.0. 7.0. It's not a lot of ways on that, but he's still good enough. Haaland can do it, and we've seen it. He's done it before. As for the actual odds for the game, well, of course, United, like we said, they're losing by 1-0. They're now 17.0 for the win. The draw's just gone up to 6.50, and Manchester City to win is 1.22. Now, the other game, interesting one, which we are keeping an eye on, is in the Dutch Eredivisie. 27 minutes gone. AZ Alkmaar losing to Nijmegen by 0 at home. However, Alkmaar are still favourites for that game. They're 1.83 for the win, 3.6 for the draw, and 4.33 for away win. 10 minutes to go or so, plus stoppage time between Eintracht Frankfurt and Borussia Dortmund in the German Bundesliga. Eintracht Frankfurt are leading by 3 goals to 2. Frankfurt are 1.29 for the win. The draw is 4.75 and is 19.0 for Borussia Dortmund. And we know how good Dortmund are, so it's probably worth a few quids on that as well. But at the moment, these are all the latest prices. And just give you one more, actually, which is Spanish La Liga. 45 minutes going to start you half-time by Rayo Vallecano and Real Sociedad. It's 1-0, and Vallecano are 5.0 for the win. The draw is 2.30, and finally, Real Sociedad are 2.40. All these prices are from Nairabet, and they're all subject to change.
Many thanks, John Kane, there with all of the latest betting news, courtesy of Nairabet here on Football Live. In about 6 minutes' time, we'll be back across to Nigeria with FJ and the team for all of your social media comments. But right now, let's head back to Old Trafford. We're approaching half-time. It remains Manchester United 0, Manchester City 1, but a couple of further bookings in that game. Kendall Rowan.
Yes, we are just getting a little bit feisty towards the end of this first half here at Old Trafford this afternoon. Phil Foden just kind of collided with Sofiane Amrabat, and Amrabat actually went to Phil Foden first, and both placed their heads on each other and have both received a yellow card for that little, what would you call it, altercation. So yeah, Onana as well in the first half did get a yellow card as well earlier for wasting time before the penalty as well for Haaland. So that's 2 yellow cards for Manchester United at this moment in time. But we're just heading a couple of more minutes now until the end of the first half. It's still in Manchester City's favour at the moment, even with the control of the game. They're in possession. They've had more attempts at goals, so 6 to Manchester United's 2. So it'll be really disappointing for Manchester United, especially how they started in the first 10 minutes or so of this half. But at the moment, as we come into the 45th minute of the first half, it is Manchester United 0, Manchester City 1.
Just to recap the results from the Premier League matches that have already been played out this afternoon. In the early cook-off, West Ham 0, Everton 1 is how it ended there. Aston Villa 3, Luton 1, Brighton 1, Fulham 1, and Liverpool 3, Nottingham Forest 0. So much brilliant action over the course of the weekend, not only in the Premiership, but across the top European leagues as well. Just looking at La Liga, and, the man of the hour, really, Jude Bellingham, scoring in stoppage time in the first El Clasico of the season yesterday at the Estadio Olimpico, as Real Madrid went back to the top of La Liga with that 2-1 win at Barcelona. Of course, before we give you any further details about that, I can tell you there's been further goal news from the Dutch Eredivisie.
The goals, powered by Nairabet.
Nijmegen now 2-0 up at Alkmaar as they reach the half-hour mark in that game. Alkmaar 0, Nijmegen 2, the latest score there in the Dutch Eredivisie. So as I was saying, in La Liga, Jude Bellingham certainly the man of the hour at the moment, just as another goal goes in the German Bundesliga.
The goals, powered by Nairabet.
What a game this is turning out to be, because Julian Brandt has equalised once again now for Dortmund. They were 2-0 down originally in that game. They brought it back to 2 apiece. They then went 3-2 behind, but it's now 3-3 in that match. Frankfurt with about 6 or 7 minutes or so remaining in that game. Frankfurt 3, Dortmund 3. Leverkusen against Freiburg kicking off in just over 10 minutes' time. We'll be wrapping up all of the other action that's taken place across Europe during the course of the weekend very, very shortly. Just touching on La Liga, though, as I mentioned, Jude Bellingham, what a goal that was he scored yesterday. Ilkay Gundogan had given Barcelona the lead, of course. That was cancelled out by that stunning strike in the first half from Bellingham, who then went on, of course, to score into stoppage time and give the points to Real Madrid. And John Kane is rejoining me once again. John, Bellingham, he can do no wrong at the moment. And what a stunning strike that was yesterday against Barca.
No, absolutely. What a beautiful goals. Both goals were beautiful, equally in their own kind of way. But yes, the first goal was absolutely marvellous. To do it while they're losing to Barcelona away from home in El Clasico with that kind of start is absolutely brilliant. And his performance is literally probably the best in Europe at the moment. You know, he's probably the best player in Europe, considering who he plays for, what he's doing for Madrid. He's scoring goals right, left and centre. He's the number 5 in Real Madrid. Yeah, he scored probably more than anyone else, probably more than so many strikers in the whole of Europe. He's absolutely brilliant performance. It was great to see from an Englishman to do so. Everyone talks about other players who are actually up front, but let's not forget, Jude Bellingham, is not his job to score goals. Yeah, he is scoring them, and Madrid all of a sudden might as well just put him up front and bring another number 5 in that squad because he is so good in doing so.
Yeah, the England midfielder top of the goal-scoring charts by my reckoning in La Liga now with 10 for the campaign. Girona keeping up their charge at the top of the table with that 1-0 win at home to Celta Vigo on Friday night. They are level on points with Real at the top of La Liga on 28 points. What a season they've had, John.
They have, haven't they? And they're 4 points ahead of Barcelona as well. And you know what? I've watched a few of the games in La Liga, and some of the games that Girona were involved in were absolutely remarkable. You watched them, and they're absolutely brilliant. And so many times they've gone down to 1-0 or 2-0, and they just came back. You know, even away from home, I can't remember who they were playing, but at the time last week. But they've been absolutely brilliant to watch. They're probably just like Tottenham, haven't they? They're probably going to be right up there, but not challenges. It's because of the depth, because of the players they've got. But at the moment, I'm sure Girona fans will be very, very happy to see their team more or less forget about Madrid, you know, same points, but get up 4 points above Barcelona, their arch rivals. So I'm sure they're very, very happy with that.
And we'll be touching on all the action that's taken place in the other top European leagues a little bit later on here on Football Live. I can tell you the half-time whistle has gone at Old Trafford, and it is Manchester United 0, Manchester City 1 at the break. We'll be back with you once again very, very shortly here on Football Live. But right now we head back to FJ and the team in Nigeria for all of your social media comments on the action that's taken place this weekend. Don't go away. We'll be back with you soon.
Powered by NairaBet. This is Football Live with Chris Baldwin.
Yes, and welcome back to Football Live. It's 5:33 on this Sunday afternoon. We're inside the final hour of this afternoon's edition, and what a cracking afternoon's football action we've had as well. Let's head back now to Old Trafford. At the break, of course, Manchester City going in 1-0 up at half-time, courtesy of that spot kick conversion from Erling Haaland as we rejoin Kendall Rowan. And Kendall, I guess it is just a narrow lead, and United still very much in this contest at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially with the way that they started, I really did not think the game would go the way that it has. Obviously, as I said earlier, they are just behind due to that penalty and Haaland's foul on Rodri earlier in the game. It was a great penalty from Haaland, as it usually is when his goal's not brilliant. But yeah, Manchester United are going to need to have a really, really big half here. They're going to have to regroup at half time, because towards the last 15 minutes or so of that first half, Manchester City were the team on top. They were in control, as they like to be. They had most of the possession and most of the attempts on goal. Pretty much most of the stats, the positive stats anyway, are going in Manchester City's favour. So they'll only get stronger the second half, as they always go into games. So yeah, we're going to need to see a big, big half from Manchester United at home for the second half. But I'm really hoping again for another feisty, interesting, end-to-end second half at Old Trafford this afternoon.
Yeah, I think when we were previewing this match, Kendall, we alluded to the fact that United, they have been getting wins, haven't they? They beat Copenhagen in the Champions League, obviously in midweek as well. That followed up victories against Sheffield United and Brentford as well. But they've all been very narrow victories, and they just seem to be failing to take control of matches.
Yeah, absolutely. They have just been, hanging on by a thread, or obviously, as we've seen in the Copenhagen game, earlier in the week in the Champions League, that was just a narrow victory with Harry Maguire's goal, seeing them out for that result as well. So it's just one of those things where I think it happened a few times last season as well, where they did have a couple of very, very narrow victories, but unfortunately, it's just this season's just started not the best for them. That I don't think they will have expected at the moment to be languishing where they are, because at this point of the season, especially before Christmas, you want a kind of idea of how your season's going to go. So yeah, they haven't been taking control of games as you would expect maybe in a manager's second season, especially when Ten Hag has been given the tools to buy the players that he wants, to get the players that he wants in. He's been given quite a lot of free rein with that to get players that he knows well to fit into the squad. We see players that he signed like Mason Mount, and they're just not really appearing week in, week out, or making the impact that maybe people expected. So yeah, it's going to be a really, really important second half for them again today. I know maybe a lot of people wouldn't have expected them to go in to win this game, but I know Manchester United fans were hoping for a home win, or at least to take some points out of this game. So we're really going to have to see how it's going to go second half. But Manchester City are just so brilliant at going into games and doing so well at taking control of it. So I'll be expecting more of that from Pep Guardiola's side second half. I think actually only Arsene Wenger has won more games against Manchester United than Pep Guardiola. So I think Pep's on 9 and Arsene Wenger was on 12. So Pep will be hoping to add to that tally today, I think.
And just a word on Rasmus Højlund as well, Kendall, because obviously he's leading the line again this afternoon. He's a very young talent, isn't he? He's only 20 years of age, but he's got that huge price tag around his neck as well. He still hasn't scored, or yet to score his first Premier League goal. I think he's got about 3 in the Champions League, so he can hit the back of the net, he can find the target. But, he appears to be a very confident young player, both on and off the pitch as well. And I guess you would expect that the goals will start flowing for him soon at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you say, he is just still very, very young. We've seen a lot of players come from different leagues abroad and not really hit the heights that they were hitting in those leagues in the Premier League, because it is a much more physical league. It is a much more intense, fast-paced league than a lot of other European leagues in specific. So yeah, I think the goals will come, and when I watch him play, I really enjoy the way he plays. I think Manchester United have been crying out for a decent number 9 for quite a while now. They've had the likes of Martial, who's just severely injury prone. Rashford was even playing centrally at some points, and yeah, they just haven't quite had the 9 and the striker that they've needed. But hopefully Højlund can be that. He's got a lot of time to go into the game, but I always say time's a luxury sometimes not afforded in football, but the fans are behind him, and Ten Hag should be able to improve him in the Premier League. As you said, we've seen him do it in the Champions League, so hopefully it'll just be a matter of time before the goals come in the Premier League, and maybe his counterpart in Haaland there can take a few tips from, and because he really hasn't had any issues finding the back of the net in the Premier League, coming from a different league abroad. So yeah, there's maybe a little no comparison to be made there, but I think he's got a lot of time to go, and he'll definitely, goals will start coming at some point.
Thanks very much, Kendall. That's Kendall Rome reporting for us here on Football Live. Manchester United against Manchester City. The second half just about underway. City, of course, leading by a goal to nil. That first half penalty from Erling Haaland, his 10th goal of the Premier League this season. Earlier on this afternoon, in case you weren't aware, the other matches that took place, final scores: West Ham 0, Everton 1. Big win that for Everton this afternoon. Dominic Calvert-Lewin with the only goal of the game shortly after the restart. He's got a terrific record against West Ham. It's his 50th Premier League goal as well, to secure all 3 points for Sean Dyche's men. Aston Villa with a comfortable 3-1 win at home to Luton. They opened their account through John McGinn in the first half, added to it just after the breakthrough Moussa Diaby, and then an own goal from Tom Lockyer, virtually sealing the points for Aston Villa just after the hour mark. Luton Town with a consolation goal, which has gone down and accredited as an Emi Martinez own goal just a few minutes before the final whistle. Brighton 1, Fulham 1 in a highly entertaining match at the Amex Stadium this afternoon. Evan Ferguson, the 18-year-old, opened the scoring in that game just before the half-hour mark, but João Palhinha equalising in the second half to earn a share of the spoils for Fulham. And, of course, Liverpool dispatching Nottingham Forest quite comfortably by 3-0 at Anfield earlier on this afternoon. A couple of first-half goals from Diogo Jota and Darwin Núñez, and Mo Salah sealing the points for Liverpool 13 minutes before time to give us a final score of 3-0. They also had a goal chalked off into stoppage time as well, but Liverpool with a comfortable win in the end. Goal news to tell you about in La Liga.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
And Mikel Oyarzabal has scored his second goal of the afternoon to turn the game around there and give Real Sociedad a 2-1 lead at Rayo Vallecano into the 67th minute of that game. We've had a very early goal at the start of the second half at Old Trafford.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
And it's certainly not the start that Manchester United would have wanted, because City have extended their lead there now. It's Manchester United 0, Manchester City 2. And he's done it again. He scored his second goal and City's second goal of the game. Erling Haaland just 4 minutes or so into the second half to put some clear daylight now between City and their Manchester rivals. We'll be hearing all about that goal very shortly from Kendall Rowan. But what an uphill task now for Eric Ten Hag's side, trailing at home to Manchester City by 2-0. As I say, details of that goal coming up very, very shortly. In the Scottish Premiership, Rangers still trailing at home to Hearts by 1-0. In the Dutch Eredivisie, they've reached half-time. Alkmaar 0, Nijmegen 2 at the break. In the German Bundesliga, Leverkusen are underway against Freiburg into the 12th minute there. Currently goalless. Big game that, of course, because 3 points for Leverkusen this evening will ensure that they go back to the top of the Bundesliga this evening. You're listening to Football Live here on Brila FM. It's 5:42 on this Sunday afternoon. Let's cross now back to Old Trafford for news of that second goal for Manchester City. And as I just said, Kendall, certainly not the start United would have wanted. A real uphill task for them now to get anything out of this game.
Absolutely not. It's Manchester United 0, Manchester City 2. Haaland was just left alone. He was left to his own devices at the back post. Why you would let a player like Haaland do that, I absolutely do not know. Maguire, Evans, absolutely nowhere to be seen. They were just ball watching, and yeah, he just glided it straight past Onana. It was honestly a pretty simple finish for Haaland. It all came from Alvarez, who I think's had an absolutely fantastic game. Just passed it, crossed it to the wing, to Jack Grealish, who overlapped with Bernardo Silva, and then Bernardo Silva's cross just met Haaland's head, and it was just a really simple finish for him. And Manchester United fans will be so mad at that, because defensively they've actually been okay today. I think they've worked well previously in the first half. There was a few kind of overlapping situations where neither defender knew where they wanted to be, but yeah, that was just really, really poor basics from Manchester United. But we're 51 minutes into the first half, and really second half, and not the second half that Manchester United will have wanted, because obviously they are now 2 goals down at home. So as I say, 52 minutes of the second half, and it is Manchester United 0, Manchester City 2.
Wow, so City have really taken a grip of the Manchester derby this afternoon. Of course, Erling Haaland got a hat-trick, didn't he, against Manchester United last season in that 6-3 win at the Etihad. Phil Foden also getting a hat-trick on that occasion. And he's got both City goals this evening, with City leading at Old Trafford by 2-0. Let's just give you a few other latest scores from around Europe. In French League 1, Rennes 1, Strasbourg 0 is the latest score there into the 38th minute. And in the Belgian Jupiler Pro League, with about 5 or 6 minutes of the match remaining, Royal Union have turned it around, having trailed earlier on in that game. They lead Westerlo by 2-1. And into the Nigerian Premier League we go. These are all latest scores for you. Abia Warriors 1, Heartland 0, Bayelsa United 2, Guarara 1, Katsina United 3, Sunshine Stars 2, Rivers United 1, Lobby Stars 0, and Shooting Stars 2, Doma United 1. They are all latest scores. Sporting Lagos entertain Niger in a 6 o'clock kickoff. So that kicks off in just about an hour and 15 minutes time or so. So you're up to date with all of the latest scores from around Europe and beyond. As I mentioned earlier, of course, there's been plenty of action around the top European leagues as well this weekend. We've already touched on all the action that took place in La Liga earlier on. Of course, Jude Bellingham once again making the headlines with a brace for Real Madrid with that 2-1 win at Barcelona yesterday in the first El Clasico of the season. Let's just briefly turn our attentions now to the Bundesliga, because, of course, Harry Kane making the news as well yesterday, scoring his second hat-trick of the season as Bayern Munich demolished Darmstadt 8-0 at the Allianz Arena. It was an extraordinary match that saw 3 first-half red cards. Kane began the rout, opening the scoring in the 51st minute as Bayern moved back to the top of the table. As I bring John Kane back in once again. Quite an incredible game that yesterday, John. And as for Harry Kane, well, he's really taken to the Bundesliga superbly, isn't he?
He has, hasn't he? And it was literally from the word go, and he's been absolutely brilliant. And I think everyone was expecting to do very well. He actually suited that kind of style and system. It's kind of the Thomas Muller kind of place, and he's ready to take over that role. But yesterday the goals were brilliant. The second goal, I believe, or one of his goals, was from just inside his own half. If you haven't got a chance to see it, just watch it. It's absolutely beautiful. We've done something very similar in 2019 for Tottenham against Juventus, against Chesney, who was in goal. And everyone said that was a fluke, but I can tell you what, this one, he literally can see the goalkeeper was way off his line, and it was a beautiful, beautiful goal. And 8-0, and after like 2 minutes, Kimmich got sent off. So more or less Bayern Munich were worried they're gone down to 10 men at home after about a couple of minutes or so, and then we've seen 2 more red cards for Darmstadt, which sort of more makes life a bit easier for Bayern Munich. But I think even with 10 men, they would have been too strong for teams like Darmstadt.
Yeah, and Harry Kane achieving something that the great Pele, of course, failed to achieve during his prolific career. Of course, he came very close in that 1970 World Cup finals, didn't he, in Mexico? That was well before your time, John, I think, probably.
I am old, trust me, I am old. I do remember it. I do remember it.
I can see that effort now from the great man himself. Not you, John, obviously.
I want to say I'm not that old, so I've got Ross.
Meanwhile, yeah, of course, yesterday in the Bundesliga, Stuttgart, they were without their injured striker, Sahu Guirassy, who, of course, has been in prolific form this season. I think was the top goal scorer, I think, in the Bundesliga. They were beaten 3-2 at home by Hoffenheim. Surprising scoreline, that, John.
It was, wasn't it? I mean, Hoffenheim, they're not a bad team, to be fair, but to go to Stuttgart, who are third in the league, and beat them 3-2 is absolutely brilliant. And he can only... Sorry, I mean, Hoffenheim always had potentials, haven't they? And they are 6th in the league at the moment as well. So, but still, for a team like Stuttgart, who are actually coming very, very strong, could have gone top of the league as well if they would have won yesterday. But not meant to be, and they lost 3 vital points at home. Of course, just a reminder as well, Bayer Leverkusen, who actually level on points now as it's still 0-0 at home to Freiburg after just 80 minutes. They are favourites to win that game, by the way, Chris, as we expected. Xabi Alonso have done absolute wonders, and they're on 23 points level with Bayern Munich. But if they can win today, they got 2 points above Bayern Munich. So Stuttgart not doing themselves any favour in that respect.
No, absolutely not. And just to confirm, Sahu Guirassy remains the top goal scorer in the Bundesliga at the moment with 14 goals to his credit. Harry Kane just 2 goals further behind him now. Elsewhere yesterday in the Bundesliga, Leipzig moving into 4th place in the table, hitting Cologne for 6 at the Red Bull Arena. And as John just mentioned, of course, Leverkusen with that opportunity to go back to the summit of the Bundesliga table this evening. If they can beat Freiburg, they're into the 19th minute, and it's currently goalless in that game. We'll be back with John very, very shortly as we reflect on the action that's taken place in Serie A and League 1 this weekend as well. But let's head back now to Old Trafford for an update on Manchester United against Manchester City. And Kendall Rowan, Manchester City still very much in control in this game.
Yes, absolutely. Manchester United just getting absolutely nothing out of this game at the moment. They're second best to every ball. They're starting to get a little bit clumsy with their fouls. Bruno Fernandes just gave away a really silly foul. Just clumsy and just not paying much attention at all. They're just getting run ragged. And yeah, Manchester City just constantly on the attack, constantly on the press. Jack Grealish has just been afforded absolutely mountains of time to go on a solo run into the box. Nobody closed him down. In fact, Onana actually had to save the shot from that solo run. So yeah, the back line's just really struggling at the moment. They even brought Mount on to kind of hold up the midfield a little bit, make a little bit more of a physical presence, but it just has not worked so far in this second half at all. So yeah, Manchester United are really, really chasing the game now. They're really behind, and Manchester City are just on top as we speak. So yeah, 58 minutes gone in this second half, and it's still Manchester United 0, Manchester City 2.
I tell you, in the Belgian Jupiler Pro League, further goal news there because Royal Union have extended their lead into the 91st minute. They now lead by 3-1 and heading towards all 3 points. This evening, you're listening to Football Live.
If you're betting on sports this week, why not make your money go further? Sign up to NairaBet for 11 days of risk-free betting. If your bet loses, you will get your stake back as a free bet up to 2,000 Naira. All you need to do is register a new account with NairaBet today and qualify to get up to 22,000 Naira in free bets. Visit www.nairabet.com/bonus for more information. General and free bet terms apply. Must be over 18. Must be KYC approved. Must place a qualifying bet. Bets must include football, tennis or basketball markets. Please gamble responsibly.
Sports Radio 88.9 Brila FM.
Oh my word, what is going on here?
You are listening to Football Live on Brila FM 88.9 and 101.1 FM.
I don't know how to describe it anymore.
4 hours of football every Saturday and Sunday on Brila FM with Football Live.
So close, but yet so far.
Powered by NairaBet.
It's come out of nowhere, really.
The Premier League, La Liga, the Bundesliga, Serie A, the Saudi Pro League.
There's action everywhere you look.
Live and exclusive on Brila FM.
I want more goals.
It's a show that's packed to the brim. This is madness. It's chaotic. Superb finish.
You are listening to Football Live.
Brila.
News and engagements never stop on our website
www.brila.net
and our social media handles
889 Brila FM
on Facebook.
Yes, 889 Brila FM on Facebook, at 889 Brila FM
on Instagram.
Got it? At 889 Brila FM on Instagram
And on Twitter.
It's at Brila FM 889 and Brila Sports TV on Google+. Brila.
News and engagements never stop.
So do remember to like all our pages. Do like us.
You are listening to Football Live on Brila FM.
Let's get back to the action on Football Live. Powered by NairaBet. This is Football Live with Chris Baldwin.
Yes, welcome back to Football Live. 7 minutes to the hour of 6 o'clock. Football Live where the action never stops. Manchester City still 2-0 up at Old Trafford against Manchester United. Erling Haaland with both goals, of course, converting from the penalty spot in the first half and then scoring just a few minutes into the second half as well to give City that 2-0 lead. That's how it remains. Manchester United 1-0 now for the draw with NairaBet to completely turn around that game and win it. You never know. Big odds, huge odds. 101.00 to win. The draw is 21.00. So that might be the more value bet of the two, possibly. If you were listening earlier on today here on Football Live, we were joined by Ayo Alabi, who is actually at the match this afternoon from NairaBet. His value bet of the for the match was for a 2-0 or a 2-1 win for Manchester City at 8.50. It's heading that way at the moment, with City, of course, leading by 2-0. We'll be back with Kendall Rowan for further updates from Old Trafford very, very shortly. I can tell you in the Scottish Premiership, Rangers have scored a very late equaliser in the 89th minute from the penalty spot. James Tavernier has equalised to make it Rangers 1, Hearts 1. Elsewhere from around Europe, Nijmegen still 2-0 up at Alkmaar. And it's still currently goalless in the Bundesliga between Leverkusen and Freiburg, just past the midway point of the first half. Real Sociedad still 2-1 up at Rayo Vallecano in La Liga. And in Ligue 1 at half-time, Rennes 1, Strasbourg 0 is the latest score there. And I can tell you that Westerlo 1, Royal Union 3 is a final score in the Belgian Jupiler Pro League. A couple of other matches taking place in that league a little bit later on this evening. In a 6:30 kickoff, Ghent are at home to Standard Liège. And at 7:15 this evening, Kortrijk at home to Genk in the Belgian Jupiler Pro League. In Italian Serie A, a couple of results from earlier on today. Cagliari 4, Frosinone 3. And it ended Monza 1, Udinese 1. We're just going to be reflecting on all the action that's taken place in Serie A very, very shortly. Of course, there are a couple of huge matches taking place, kicking off at 6 o'clock this evening. Inter at home to Roma. Romelu Lukaku marking his return to Inter, of course, following his move in the summer. Incidentally, Jose Mourinho is suspended from that match this afternoon, having been sent off following their 1-0 win at home to Monza last weekend. So he won't be on the touchline. And, of course, the big match this evening, kicking off at 8:45 in Serie A, Napoli at home to Milan. Napoli, once again, will have to do without the services of Victor Osimhen, of course, who still has that thigh injury as well. They kick off there at 8:45 this evening. Right, let's just check back in now with Kendall Rowan, who's covering obviously all the action that's taking place at Old Trafford this afternoon. Manchester City still 2-0 up, and as you mentioned earlier, no signs of Manchester United making any inroads into this game, Kendall.
No, absolutely not. I mean, they are just getting a little bit more possession back now, but to be honest, they're just being run absolutely ragged. City are just slowing the tempo of the game down in their favour, just passing across the field, passing to each other, and Manchester United are going to end up absolutely shattered just based on the fact they haven't completely chased the ball all of the time. I just cannot see a way that they get back into this unless just there's a moment of absolute madness from Manchester City. The stats just say it all, really, goal attempts and things like that. Manchester City have had 14 goal attempts to Manchester United's 5 at home. So yeah, it's not looking good for Manchester United at the moment. Really poor showing from them at home, and I think the fans will definitely feel the same. Amrabat obviously came off earlier because he was on a yellow for Mason Mount, so they've just lost. I really thought it might make a difference because it was fresh legs, but they've just lost that physicality in midfield defensively obviously to counteract Manchester City. So yeah, not looking good so far, but there is 25 minutes plus any added time left to go, so we will see what happens for the rest of the game. But we're 66 minutes into the second half, and it's still Manchester United 0, Manchester City 2.
Yeah, and the stats very much telling the story at the moment as well. 5 goal attempts for United, 14 for City, 3 on target for United, 7 on target for City, who are still very comfortably in control of proceedings at the moment at Old Trafford there, where it remains Manchester United 0, Manchester City 2. Let's reflect once again on all the action that's taken place across Europe this weekend as we turn our attentions to Serie A. Juventus moving a point clear at the top of Serie A yesterday after Andrea Cambiaso scored a 97th minute winner against Verona. Big win that was for Juve yesterday, John.
Yes, it was, wasn't it? What a goal to score, and of course it's a very, very valuable goal. Very about 3 points that puts them 23 points, top of the league. Of course, awaits probably the game of Inter, Roma, like you mentioned, and Milan and Napoli. So Milan and Inter, or can either of them or both, in fact, can overlap. Juventus is sending back to third, but at the moment, Juve are doing what they need to do. They sort of come back to their winning ways, haven't they? I mean, not the 1980s Juventus. See, I'm showing my age now, but not the 1980s Juventus who were Platini and Laudrup and Poniak, who played in that beautiful team in the 80s. But it's more or less it's something about Juve this season that makes me feel that it's sort of is falling in place, in the right place. But like I said, 3 points, they'll take it, and they did. It was hard work, but they did get it in the end.
Yeah, as you mentioned, of course, Napoli in action as well this evening as they entertain Milan, but Inter at home to Roma as well. Real feisty affair that as well, isn't it? With Romelu Lukaku returning to his former club, and you would expect him to receive a pretty hostile reception there this evening.
No, absolutely. I think it was definitely on the cards. It doesn't matter who's going to come with Romelu Lukaku. He's going to get a really, really hot reception, not for the right reasons, of course. But I think the way also he left Inter Milan, didn't he? Really wound up the Inter board, the Inter fans. They weren't happy the way that he left and forced his way to go to AS Roma. But at the end of the day, if Roma, I know Mourinho, like you mentioned, is suspended for the game, but if Roma scored the winning goal with Lukaku, then I don't think Mourinho or Lukaku himself would care. It's the 3 points they're after. They're not really in a healthy position, aren't they, Roma? They're on 8th position at the moment, and with 14 points. But never say never with Jose Mourinho's team, but it's definitely not the place that they want to see themselves in. Only 1 point above Lazio and 1 point below Bologna, who are on 7th.
But Serie A certainly has a different shape about it, doesn't it? This season, as we know, last season, Napoli pretty much romped home, didn't they, in the end? But it's really wide open, isn't it? Just, 5 points separating first from fourth. But certainly it seems as though it's going to be a much tighter affair with the likes of Juve, Inter, Milan and possibly Napoli involved in the title race this season.
No, absolutely. I mean, you mentioned Juve, Inter 1 point behind them. Milan are 2 points behind the leaders. Napoli on 17th. They win today. They go to 20th. Fiorentina, they're playing Lazio, so that's a big game as well tonight. Sorry, in fact, tomorrow. Atalanta themselves are 6th with 16 points. They can go to 19 points. So if things work out in the way that the clubs, it's hard to say big clubs, isn't it? Because they're all big, really, in their own ways. But these clubs will actually, if they do right results come up today and tomorrow, you will see teams like Roma and Milan and Atalanta and Fiorentina being in the top 5. And literally, like you said, it's going to be a matter of 2, 3, 4, even 5 points, which is nothing really at this stage of the season after just 10 games. So it's looking very interesting, and it looks very, very hard to predict who's actually going to win it. It comes May in the Serie A title.
Yeah, certainly is. They're going to be reflecting on the League very, very shortly as well here on Football Live, 2 minutes past 6 on this Sunday evening. I can tell you there's goal news in the Scottish Premiership, quite incredible. Rangers have scored again. They now lead at home to Hearts by 2-1. They had been trailing right up until the 88th minute, but they've turned it around and now leading Hearts at home by 2-1. They equalised through James Tavernier, and the Brazilian Danilo has just scored again to give the Ibrox club the lead in that game. So it is now Rangers 2, Hearts 1. Further goal news in the Dutch Eredivisie as well.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
And Alkmaar have reduced the deficit. They now trail at home to Nijmegen by 2-1 in that game. And the scorer of the goal for Alkmaar is Vangelis Pavlidis, the Greek, scoring there to reduce the deficit, as I say. It's his 14th goal of the campaign as well. He has been in absolutely superb form this season, the Greek player, of course, who was recently linked, wasn't he, with a possible move to a Premier League club, West Ham being one of those as well. Of course, West Ham looking to bolster their striker options as well. And I know that Vangelis Pavlidis has been on their radar. He's now scored, in fact, that is his 14th goal of the season for Alkmaar. So he scores again this afternoon, he will be drawn to the attention of a whole host of other clubs as well, no doubt. AZ Alkmaar trailing at home to Nijmegen now by 2-1. Further goal news as well in La Liga.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
Rayo Vallecano back on level terms, 2 apiece there. They are into stoppage time there, so a late equaliser there for Rayo Vallecano at home to Real Sociedad, where it is 2-2 in that game. Thiago Bebe has scored into stoppage time there to make it 2 apiece between Rayo Vallecano and Real Sociedad. Let's head back to Old Trafford now. Manchester United against Manchester City. Let's get an update from Kendall Rowan.
Yes, it is still Manchester United 0, Manchester City 2. Manchester United just had about 3 or 4 minutes of possession. They were in control. Christian Eriksen started a really decent pass to Marcus Rashford, actually, but the shot just went wide of the left post. And from that goal kick, it's just been Manchester City again and again and again. It's just incessant at this point. They're just not being marked at all by the Manchester United defenders. Haaland's had another goal. They're just, honestly, it's just a free-for-all at this point. And Manchester United have made a substitution there, a couple of substitutions actually, just to try and change the game. But at this point, I mean, there's 15 minutes left to go without any added time. So I don't think they're going to change the game that much. But Lindelof has come off the pitch and he's been replaced by Sergio Reguilon, and Rasmus Højlund, the striker, has come off the pitch and he has been replaced by Alejandro Garnacho. So we'll see if they change the game at all, but yeah, they're still 2 goals behind with 15 minutes to go, so not sure much is going to change in the game this evening. But it is Manchester United 0, Manchester City 2.
And assuming that City do clinch all 3 points this evening, Kendall, how much pressure now does that put on Erik ten Hag? Obviously, does the Champions League come into play as well? Of course, they got that priceless win, didn't they, at home to Copenhagen in midweek. But if they should exit that competition, and that is quite conceivable, then are we talking something like just a matter of weeks, do you think?
Yeah, when I keep saying it and when I watch Manchester United, there's not much I can see that Ten Hag's actually improved in their style of playing on the pitch. There's too many chops and changes weeks in, weeks out from players that maybe performed well. They have got a couple of injuries as well, obviously to like Martinez, Casemiro, really important players. Wan-Bissaka, who actually started the season relatively well as well, he's also injured. So they have got a couple of injuries, which we have to mention, for context. But at the same time, some players, especially this level of players, should be able to slot in on the pitch week in, week out and do a decent job, but it's just not happening for whatever reason at the moment. And yeah, I think if they do exit, obviously they've got a big game on Wednesday in the Carabao Cup against Newcastle, maybe the arch nemesis from the final last year that they managed to beat, so that's a big game for both teams. If he loses that and drops out of the Carabao Cup, then the Champions League as well, yeah, I think it's by Christmas they might be looking to his future at the club, so we'll see what happens there.
We shall indeed. Thanks very much, Kendall. So it remains Manchester United 0, Manchester City 2 at Old Trafford. Big goal in the Bundesliga.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
Florian Wirtz has given Leverkusen the lead at home to Freiburg, scoring in the 36th minute. And of course, that means that if Leverkusen do win this evening, they will go back to the top of the Bundesliga, replacing Bayern this evening. So they're currently leading Freiburg by 1-0. Florian Wirtz with the opening goal there for Leverkusen in that game. Let's continue with our review of the weekend's action in Europe as we turn our attentions now to Ligue 1. Monaco this afternoon, they had a fantastic opportunity to go back to the top of the table. I think it's been, some 8 or 9 years since they won their last title or so. However, they were beaten at Lille by 2-0. Possibly, John, no surprises there.
No, no surprises at all. I mean, Lille are a very good team. They're 18 points, they're in 4th place, and Monaco's only 2 points ahead of them. So just put the pressure on Monaco. PSG, who was second with 21, behind Nice on 22. But Lille just done the job. They got the job done and took that 3 points at home to a good team of Monaco this season.
Yeah, and of course Nice currently at the top of the table as well. They won their match on Friday night, beating Clermont on Friday evening, as I say, to move themselves into pole position. But they've got PSG breathing down there next, and it was a late show from them earlier on today, wasn't it, John, with that 3-2 win and that last gasp winning goal from Kylian Mbappe.
Yeah, I mean, how much Paris Saint-Germain need him, didn't they? I mean, they had a rocket start as well, didn't they, PSG this season? But I think with that, had that issues with Kylian Mbappe wasn't playing, trying to force his way out to go to Real Madrid, and he said he's not going to play ever for the Parisian club. But at the end of the day, all things went fine, and I think Paris Saint-Germain really needed him to come back, and they are now second behind Nice by a point behind. You spoke about Clermont. Of course, they've lost to Nice today. Of course, Nice got the league. But what is surprising is last weekend when Clermont beat Lyon by 2-1, and you look at the table, I can't remember the last time I've seen a big club like Lyon bottom of the league. Literally just 3 points from 3 draws, and they're playing Marseille today as well. It's not really looking good for a club like that who, if I remember rightly, never been relegated. Well, the last time got relegated was 1951, is how big that club is. So I believe you've got a goal for us, Chris.
Yep, further goal news to tell you about from Old Trafford.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
And it just gets worse and worse and worse for Manchester United, because they now trail at home to their fierce rivals City by 3-0. Confirmation of the third goal scorer coming up very shortly, but it is now Manchester United 0, Manchester City 3. Phil Foden, I can tell you, has scored in the 80th minute. It's the old Haaland-Foden double act once again against their rivals United. So Manchester City running away with all 3 points in that game at the moment. And we'll be across with Kendall Rowan to describe that goal for you very shortly here on Football Live on Brila FM. It's 11 minutes past 6 this evening. Plenty of action, of course, coming up next weekend here on the programme. We'll be back with you on Saturday, the 4th of November. Barry Swain will be controlling everything from our London studios as we take in fixtures including Manchester City against Bournemouth, Brentford at home to West Ham in the London derby, Everton at home to Brighton at Goodison Park. A huge win for Everton this afternoon at West Ham. Can that get their season going? Burnley, who still desperately need the points, they're at home to Crystal Palace next weekend. We'll be across that game for you, as well as Sheffield United against Wolves at Bramall Lane. And then the tea time kickoff takes place at St James's Park when Newcastle entertain Arsenal in a 6:30 p.m. kickoff. And a couple of matches from the other top European leagues to look forward to on Saturday. Atalanta at home to Inter, and Dortmund at home to Bayern Munich in the standout fixture in the Bundesliga next weekend. That's all taking place on Saturday. Let's head back to Old Trafford then for details of that third goal for City. Here's Kendall Rowan.
Yes, it is Manchester United 0, Manchester City 3, and it is the Manchester City boy Phil Foden who gets the third goal. It did actually all come from Rodri, who was allowed to just again have a shot, just go on a solo run in between all of the Manchester United players. Nobody closed him down at all. Eriksen was just jogging, and he actually had a shot which Onana saved and palmed it straight into Haaland, who was just waiting in the wings, crossed it to Foden, and yeah, couldn't have been a simpler finish for Foden once again. I think they've just, the Manchester City forwards particularly, have had a fantastic game today. All of them, Alvarez, Foden, Bernardo Silva, Grealish, Haaland, just all working fantastically as an attack. And yeah, I think any team would be scared of that attack, and especially Manchester United were this afternoon at a rainy Old Trafford. I think, you know, the term pathetic fallacy is perfect for them right now. The fans have started to leave. It's just not looking good for them, especially with some important games coming up. But we are 82 minutes into the second half, and it is Manchester United 0, Manchester City 3.
Foden with his second goal of the campaign. So with under 8 minutes or so remaining there, Manchester City heading towards all 3 points of that. There's no doubt, and it would move them up into third place in the table on 24 points. You are listening to Football Live.
Predict 6 correct scores to win a life-changing 20 million naira. Naira 6 is the new and exciting free prediction game to play at www.nairabet.com. We challenge you to predict the scores of 6 pre-selected fixtures, usually from the Premier League. Guess all 6 correct and the prize is yours. The guaranteed jackpot will be up for grabs each week, with plenty of prizes for runners-up. The best thing about Naira 6 is that it is completely free to enter. All you need to do is log into nairabet.com and click the free tab. Select Naira 6 and enter your predictions. Wait for the final scores. So what are you waiting for? Available to registered players only. 1 entry per person. Must be over 18 to sign up. Full terms and conditions apply. Please gamble responsibly.
We can promise you fireworks next Saturday afternoon here on Brila FM when Football Live returns. 5 Premier League matches kick off at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, including the champions, Manchester City, as they take on Bournemouth at the Etihad. And then the late kick-off at 6:30, Newcastle United against Arsenal, a big game from St James's Park. We'll also keep a close eye on the big game in Italy in Serie A. Ademola Lookman in action as Atalanta take on Inter Milan. It promises to be an action-packed show next Saturday afternoon. The show starts at 10 to 4 in the afternoon. We'll see you then for the next instalment of Football Live on Brila FM.
Sports Radio 88.9 Brila FM.
Oh my word, what is going on here?
You are listening to Football Live on Brila FM 88.9 and 101.1 FM.
I don't know how to describe it anymore.
4 hours of football every Saturday and Sunday on Brila FM with Football Live.
So close, but yet so far.
Powered by NairaBet.
It's come out of nowhere, really.
The Premier League, La Liga, the Bundesliga, Serie A, the Saudi Pro League.
There's action everywhere you look.
Live and exclusive on Brila FM.
I want more goals.
It's a show that's packed to the brim. This is madness. It's chaotic. Superb finish.
Take Brila anywhere, everywhere.
Yes, you can take Brila with you anywhere, everywhere.
The Brila app is available for free download on Google Play. It is also there on the Apple iTunes Store. Yes, on Google Play and the Apple iTunes Store.
Look out for the Brila football and microphone logo with the letters BRILA in green colour.
That is our authentic app. It gives you Brila FM, Brila.net, brillasports.tv and all the extra betting tips, live score, plus our Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Google Plus and YouTube posts.
Sports fun. You can post your videos and eyewitness reports.
Brila, B-R-I-L-A. Available for download on Google Play and the Apple iTunes Store.
You are listening to Football Live on Brila FM.
Powered by NairaBet. This is Football Live with Chris Baldwin.
Welcome back to Football Live. I can tell you the halftime whistle has blown at the Bay Arena in the Bundesliga. Leverkusen taking that 1-0 lead into the break against Freiburg. Florian Wirtz, of course, with that first half goal. So Leverkusen 1, Freiburg 0 at halftime. It remains Manchester United 0, Manchester City 3 at Old Trafford. Erling Haaland with a couple of goals. Phil Foden also on the score sheet as well. 3 minutes of normal time remaining there. Meanwhile, in the Scottish Premiership, Rangers clinching all 3 points in the end. They turned it around in the 89th minute to beat Hearts by 2-1. And that means they close the gap on Celtic to 5 points at the top of the Premiership. Celtic, of course, who surprisingly dropped a couple of points against Hibs yesterday. They currently are at the top of the Premiership on 26 points. 5 points clear, as I say, of Rangers, who are now on 21 points following that late show and win at home this afternoon in the Scottish Premiership. Let's head back now to Old Trafford because some substitution news, I think, for Kendall Rowan to give us about. Kendall.
Yes, both teams just making some changes in the last, 5 or so minutes of this game now. So Manchester United have brought on Anthony Martial for Marcus Rashford, who Marcus Rashford's not had the best game. I think he's going to be really disappointed, and so is the manager and the fans in him today. And also Christian Eriksen has been replaced by Anthony as well. And then Manchester City have also made some changes just to keep, some fresh legs for whatever they've got coming their way this weekend. Mateo Kovacic, he's come on for Julian Alvarez, who I think's had a really, really fantastic game. And also Jack Grealish as well, again, another forward who's had an absolutely brilliant game. And he has been replaced by Jeremy Doku. But at the minute, it's 3-0 to Manchester City away at Manchester United at Old Trafford this afternoon. So I think that is going to mean the 3 points go to Manchester City today. But we're 88 minutes gone now of this game. Couple minutes left to go, and it's still Manchester United 0, Manchester City 3.
Yeah, and the goals and the stats really telling the tale at Old Trafford this afternoon. Manchester United expected goals 0.94, City 3.90. They've also had 60% of the possession as well, Pep's men, with 19 goal attempts, 10 of those on target. As for United, just 7 goal attempts. Pitiful this evening. And just 3 of those on target as well. And of course, as we mentioned a few minutes ago, the fans already, probably most of them have left, Manchester United fans, that is, by now, I would think, as well. But we're inside the final 10 minutes of this edition of Football Live on this Sunday evening. It is 21 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock. Of course, earlier on today, Everton beat West Ham at the London Stadium. So I've just seen something here. Someone says it's a long way back to London for the Manchester United supporters. Everton winning 1-0 at West Ham, courtesy of a second-half goal from Dominic Calvert-Lewin in that game. Big win for Sean Dyche's men. It moves them on to 10 points now this season. As for West Ham, well, 4 matches now without a win in all competitions. They've just come off the rails a little bit. Aston Villa, a comfortable 3-1 win at home to Luton this afternoon. They got going with an early goal from John McGinn. That was added to by a goal shortly after the restart from Moussa Diaby to make it 2-0. And then a Tom Lockyer own goal just after the hour mark, pretty much sealing the points for Villa, who conceded late on when Emi Martinez put through his own net to gift the goal for Luton. So all 3 points going the way of Aston Villa this afternoon. Brighton 1, Fulham 1 is how it ended at the Amex. Brighton going ahead in that game through their 18-year-old striker, Evan Ferguson, midway through the first half. But João Palhinha cancelling out that goal into the second half to earn a point there for Fulham in that game. Brighton still without a win against Fulham in the Premier League. And in the other match that took place in the Premier League, of course, earlier on today, Liverpool with a comfortable 3-0 win at home to Nottingham Forest. 2 goals in the first half, one from Diogo Jota and another from Darwin Núñez to give them a 2-0 lead at the break. And then Mo Salah adding a third 13 minutes from time. So a comfortable win, as I say, there for Liverpool in the end in that game. 4 minutes of injury time added on at Manchester United. In Serie A, they are underway at the San Siro. Inter against Roma. Currently goalless. They're at the midway point of the first half there. It's Inter 0, Roma 0. By all accounts, Inter have made a pretty strong start to that match, though. And in French Ligue 1, a latest score to give you, it remains Rennes 1, Strasbourg 0, just past the hour mark in that game. And I think you're fully up to date with all of the latest scores from around Europe, apart from the one that I haven't touched on in the Dutch Eredivisie, where Nijmegen is still holding a 2-1 lead at Alkmaar with about 11 or 12 minutes remaining there. Finally, in fact, into the Nigerian Premier League. These are all final scores. Abia Warriors 1, Heartland 0, Bayelsa United 2, Kwara 1, Katsina United 3, Sunshine Stars 2, Rivers United 1, Lobby Stars 0, Shooting Stars 3, Doma United 1, and a latest score to give you, Sporting Lagos 0, Niger 0, into the 24th minute in that game. So they're into stoppage time at Old Trafford. Manchester United against Manchester City. United are trailing by 3-0. Let's get the latest from Kendall Rowan.
Yes, it is still Manchester United 0, Manchester City 3. There is 4 minutes of stoppage time to be played. We're just about 2 or 3 minutes into that now. And Anthony, who's literally just come onto the field, makes a really awful, poor, clumsy challenge. And it's actually been given a yellow. But to be honest, I think he's been relatively lucky there. That absolutely could have been a red for him, and he's only been on the field a matter of moments. And Bruno Fernandes also received a yellow card as well. So it's just going from bad to worse to Manchester United here at the moment, and this game just has not gone well for them at all. The Manchester City subs have really made a difference as well, even though they didn't actually need to. So they're just looking again strong into the final dying minutes of this game. So we're 93 minutes now, coming up to the final minute of full time here, and it is Manchester United 0, Manchester City 3.
Yeah, I'm sure the final whistle can't come soon enough now for not just the Manchester United fans, but also their players, as well, as they will be heading towards another defeat against their big rivals in Manchester. Prior to this afternoon's meeting, they'd already lost 5 of their last 6 meetings with City. Make that 6 from the last 7 now, because they are heading towards yet another defeat, as I say, in the 191st Manchester derby. We'll be back with Kendall very shortly for a full-time report on that game. I don't think there's any further goals to tell you about from around Europe. Of course, I mentioned already the action taking place next Saturday as we rejoin you once again here on Football Live. And of course, we'll be back with you once again on Sunday. Dean Kilford will be in the hot seat to guide you through 4.5 hours of Premier League and top European League football as well. Nottingham Forest at home to Aston Villa. Nottingham Forest, who succumbed to defeat too easily this afternoon at Liverpool, of course. Difficult game for them at home to Aston Villa. Luton Town at home to Liverpool. Great day out for Luton Town supporters, but we can only really see that going one way. That's also taking place next weekend. And elsewhere, we also have action in the WSL as well, with Liverpool at home to Leicester City, and plenty of action from around Europe. As I say, Ajax at home to Heerenveen. Ajax, of course, who went down 5-2 at PSV this afternoon in the Dutch Eredivisie, despite having taken the lead twice in that game. Also, next Sunday, other matches to look forward to here on Football Live. Heidenheim at home to Stuttgart in the Bundesliga. As I say, that's all coming up next Sunday, a week today, when you'll be in the company of Dean Kilford. I think possibly, have we got a final score coming in from Old Trafford? I do believe the final whistle has blown, and the Manchester City have taken all 3 points there. So for the final time this evening, let's cross back over to Kendall Rowan. Kendall, in the end of the day, it was all too easy for Pep's men.
Absolutely. I think the Manchester United fans and the team, and especially Ten Hag, will just be glad that this match is finished now, because it was a really, really poor showing from them at home today. The final dying minutes of the game, Johnny Evans again, as I said earlier, just gave away another clumsy foul, gave Manchester City a free kick, but obviously nothing came from that, and the game ended Manchester United 0, Manchester City 3. Comfortable victory for Manchester City, which, in fairness, really shocked me, considering the first 10 or so minutes Manchester United looked good. They were in control. He had some really decent bursts in attack, but from the penalty point, it just went downhill for Manchester United, I'm afraid, and they will not be moving up the table today. And Pep Guardiola goes another step to reaching that Arsene Wenger record that I mentioned earlier in having the most wins in the Premier League over Manchester United. So he adds another one to his tally today, and it was a very, very comfortable victory for Pep's men. So at full time today here at the rainy Old Trafford, it is Manchester United 0, Manchester City 3.
Rain in Manchester, who would have thought? Thanks very much to Football Live reporter Kendall Rowan this afternoon, as Manchester City clinch all 3 points very comfortably indeed with that 3-0 win at Manchester United. Well, that's nearly just about it from us. So let's just recap all of the Premier League scorelines from across the weekend. It all got underway, of course, on Friday evening as Tottenham beat Crystal Palace 2-1 at Selhurst Park. Moving on to Saturday in the early kickoff, of course, We saw Chelsea beaten at home by Brentford by 2-0. The other results from yesterday: Arsenal 5, Sheffield United 0, Bournemouth 2, Burnley 1. Huge result that for the Cherries. And Wolves 2, Newcastle 2. And of course, just recapping all of the final scores from today's action on this Sunday evening in the Premier League, as it finished: Aston Villa 3, Luton 1, Brighton 1, Fulham 1, Liverpool 3, Nottingham Forest 0, West Ham 0, Everton 1. And of course, as we just heard there at Old Trafford in the big Manchester derby, Manchester United 0, Manchester City 3. Hope you've enjoyed our coverage across the weekend here on Football Live. We'll do it all again next week. But from everybody here on the programme, it's a very good evening to you. Bye-bye.
This afternoon's Football Live was presented by Chris Baldwin and produced by John Kane. A big thank you to all of our reporters around the grounds bringing you the goals throughout the show. Football Live is sponsored by NairaBet. Football Live returns next Saturday afternoon at 3:50 in the afternoon with Dean Kilford.